Chapter 2004. In the boundless sea region, the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect stood tall, like a divine kingdom on the sea. The current Qin Heavenly Divine Sect was no longer the same as before. Back then, when the Qin clan was destroyed, Qin Wendian led his heavenly deity army to destroy the prison god clan. The various hegemonic powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms all retreated, not daring to fight. Some of them even submitted to Qin Wendian. From then on, the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect's transcendent status in the supreme ancient immortal realms was established. During these 10+ years, more and more experts joined the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. The test of the sect was extremely strict, and the core disciples were still experts from the various factions who followed Qin Wendian back then. Only they had the qualifications to enter the Heaven Vault freely for cultivation. For those who risked their lives to protect the sect back then, Qin Wendian bestowed cultivation's secret realms to them. Among the disciples of the various factions, many heavenly deities were born. However, only the people of the Heaven Vault knew about this. The disciples of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect could only see a trace of it. Maybe this was just the tip of the iceberg. The Qin Heavenly Divine Sect was connected to Boundless City. Right now, Boundless City has long become a subsidiary of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. Because of the peace during these years, many experts from the various regions of the supreme ancient immortal realms gathered in Boundless City to admire the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. There were also people who wanted to join the sect. The entire Boundless City was incomparably lively. The various inns in Boundless City were also filled with customers all year round, discussing the current situation in the supreme ancient immortal realms. On the streets of Boundless City, many experts could be seen strolling about. In the clear sky, a sharp whistling sound suddenly rang out. Many people inclined their heads and stared at the sky. A golden light that was even more dazzling compared to the sunlight reflected in their eyes, causing them to have a hard time opening their eyes. What is that? At this moment, more and more people inclined their heads and stared at the sky. The golden light grew more and more resplendent, blinding everyone's eyes. Terrifying whistling sounds rang out as a divine glow filled the sky. Divine weapons descending from the heavens. Exclamations of shock rang out as the hearts of many trembled violently. Surges of heavenly might descended from the sky. Those beams of light were actually divine weapons, and they descended like a meteor shower. Finally, with a thunderous boom, the earth was torn asunder as many people screamed in agony. A radius of 10,000 miles was instantly razed to the ground. Just the aftershock alone caused many innocent people to die. Boom, 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 boom. Deafening noises rang out continuously. It was as if an earthquake had erupted in Boundless City. It was extremely terrifying. Divine weapon, a divine weapon from the immemorial heavens. Countless people let out frenzied screams. This was a calamity. Countless people died because of it, but this was also a grand banquet. The divine weapon descended from the sky, landing in Boundless City, causing the experts here to go crazy. The weak were howling in grief while the strong were excited. They all rushed towards the location where the divine weapon landed. This was a true divine weapon, a heavenly deity's divine weapon. It had the power to destroy the heavens and earth. If they could obtain it, they would be able to comprehend the heavenly Tao energy contained within, allowing them to greatly increase their strength. In the supreme ancient immortal realms, only heavenly deities were qualified to use divine weapons of this level. But now, they had a chance to obtain these divine weapons. How could this not cause them to go crazy? However, how could it be so easy to obtain a divine tool? The divine tool that descended upon Boundless City released its might. Experts below the heavenly deity realm couldn't even touch it. They were isolated by the power it released. If they were to approach it, their lives would be in danger. Great changes in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Right now, even the heavens have changed. They actually sent down divine weapons. An old man in Boundless City inclined his head and stared at the sky as he sighed. His cultivation base was very powerful and he was a hegemonic level world overlord. However, he still couldn't obtain a divine weapon. He could only sigh in admiration. These divine weapons that landed in Boundless City, there were divine swords, divine halberds, all of them were different types of divine weapons. No one knew why or where they came from. Other than the heavens, who else would have such extravagant spending? Such a huge commotion in Boundless City naturally alerted the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, a holy ground in the Boundless Sea region. Immediately, experts from the Divine Sect came to investigate. After that, they sent the news back to the Heaven Vault. The upper echelons of the various factions all received the news and all of them felt that something was amiss. Hence, they gave the order to send experts out to investigate. In fact, even heavenly deities were mobilized. Back then among the experts who followed Qin Wenin, the myriad Devil Islands, Battle Saint Tribe, Namhuang Clan, etc. Their leaders, Bai Qing, Qi Yu, Southern Phoenix Matriarch and the others, have long broken through to the heavenly deity realm. During these years, more and more heavenly deities also appeared. The experts who came out from the Heaven Vault and headed to Boundless City to investigate were all heavenly deities from the various factions. Although divine weapons descended from the heavens, it didn't startle Qin Wenin yet. Right now, the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect was a gigantic power. It was impossible for everything to be handled by Qin Wenin. Only things that the various factions couldn't handle would eventually enter his ears. If not, what was the point of having so many heavenly deities around? In the supreme ancient immortal realms, heavenly deities were existences at the peak. It was only because of the changes in the era, the Heaven Vault gave birth to the Heaven Vault army and God Kings appeared in the world, as well as existences close to the God King realm. Hence, heavenly deities weren't so conspicuous anymore. Namhuang Yunshi and Nanfeng Xinge of the Namhuang clan walked out together, heading to Boundless City to investigate. There were also several heavenly deities from the various factions with them. Their divine senses enveloped Boundless City and after that, they flew towards one of the divine weapons. That was a divine sword that shone resplendently and seemed to have the ability to slash apart space. A heavenly deity from Ji Chang's gate stepped out. She unleashed a powerful spatial Dao art that enveloped that divine sword. After that, she clasped her hands together and the divine sword hummed as it directly leaped into the hands of the heavenly deity from Ji Chang's gate. "There's nothing strange," she spoke in a soft voice. "Everyone, disperse and go to other places to collect the divine weapons. Although there's nothing strange, it's best to be more careful in case something unexpected happens." Namhuang Yunshi spoke. Everyone nodded. They were still very respectful towards Namhuang Yunshi. She was a good friend who once fought side by side with Qin Wenin, a friend of his through life and death. She had the qualifications to stay in the floating palace where Qin Wenin resided and could see Qin Wenin at any time. Right now, not everyone could see Qin Wenin just because they wanted to. The various heavenly deities flew in different directions, collecting the divine weapons in Boundless City and preparing to bring them away. Although they didn't know where these divine weapons came from, they knew that Boundless City wouldn't be able to digest them all. Leaving them here would only cause chaos. At this moment, a powerful devil cultivator from the myriad Devil Islands held a divine spear in his hand and was preparing to return. At this moment, the divine spear shone with a bright light that climbed up his arm, slowly coiling around it. He frowned and lowered his head to glance at his arm. A powerful might gushed forth, wanting to shatter the spear, but in the next instant, the terrifying light directly assimilated his arm. His arm continued to solidify, becoming a part of the divine weapon. Not only that, the light was still spreading towards his body. Not good. His heart trembled as he roared, "Quickly throw it away." His voice was like thunder from a clear sky, reverberating through the air. The heavenly deities from the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect instantly heard his voice. They lowered their heads and stared at the divine weapons. After that, their hands that were holding onto the divine weapons turned golden. In just an instant, it felt like they no longer belonged to them, but a part of the divine weapon. Nanfeng Xinge also took out a divine sword. Her arm turned golden, becoming one with the divine sword. "Sever your arm." Namhuang Yunshi, who was at the side, exclaimed in shock. Nanfeng Xinge's expression froze. She didn't hesitate and slashed out with her other hand, directly severing the arm that was holding onto the divine sword. In an instant, fresh blood flowed. The light from the divine weapon radiated outwards, enveloping Nanfeng Xingge. However, Namhuang Yunxi's silhouette flashed as she pulled her away from their original location, retreating far away. "Are you all right?" Namhuang Yunxi stared at Nanfeng Xingge's severed arm. Nanfeng Xingge was currently using her energy to regenerate it. She shook her head lightly. Nanfeng Xingge's beautiful eyes changed. Her divine sense enveloped Boundless City only to see that the various heavenly deities weren't as lucky as her. At this moment, their bodies actually became a part of the divine weapons. The divine weapons vanished from their bodies, fusing into their bodies. Namhuang Yunxi naturally saw this scene as well. She knew that this unknown enemy was no longer something she could contend against. She pulled Nanfeng Xingge along as their silhouettes flashed, rapidly retreating in the direction of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. In the airspace above Boundless City, numerous golden figures appeared. There were many divine weapons behind them. These golden figures were none other than the heavenly deities from the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. Right now, their eyes gleamed with an extreme coldness, as cold as the weapons they wielded. The people of Boundless City inclined their heads and stared at the sky as their hearts pounded violently. What was going on exactly? Who planned this? It was actually so terrifying. The figures of these divine weapons flashed as they sped towards the direction of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. The divine weapons behind them hummed loudly, causing the entire city to tremble. The people in the city felt a sense of suffocation, not even daring to breathe loudly. Namhuang Yunxi and Nanfeng Xingge's speed was extremely fast. Boundless City was also connected to the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. They directly retreated into the sect and informed the experts of the sect to activate the divine formation, enveloping the entire Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. The Chenkuan sect leader and 9 Heavens mystical maiden who were in the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect were shocked. They turned their gazes outside and saw the terrifying scene outside the divine formation. Numerous golden deities stood there, their eyes gleaming with coldness, and there were even divine weapons following behind them. "Is this the Che clan?" The Chenkuan sect leader spoke in a low voice. The Che clan was once the #1 weaponsmithing aristocrat clan in the supreme ancient immortal realms. These divine weapons made him think of the Che clan. At this moment, the appearances of those heavenly deities changed. All of them actually transformed into the face of a single person. Che Ho. The eyes of the Chenkuan sect leader gleamed with sharpness when he saw this. The Che clan leader came to the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, just like what he told the world. Now he came. In addition, he could actually transform into different people and fuse with divine weapons. Such a heaven-defying method was something he didn't have before. The him now was simply too terrifying. Chapter 2005. Che Ho was no longer the Che Ho of the past. He was someone who had fused with a divine weapon, and that divine weapon was originally created by gathering the energy of the Che clan. It was a combination of countless divine weapons and divine formations. Ultimately, it devoured the Che clan and gave birth to sentience before it fused with Che Ho, becoming the current Che Ho. Because he could easily transform into many divine weapons. Each divine weapon was him and was equivalent to an avatar. Naturally, the strength of these avatars would be weakened and wouldn't be able to be compared to Che Ho who had fused them together. But even so, any divine weapon could easily destroy an ordinary heavenly deity. Those heavenly deities of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect actually didn't even have the ability to resist and were devoured, becoming a part of Che Ho. Che Ho, who was outside the light screen, coldly glanced at the divine formation. After that, the figures transformed into divine weapons once again. Clanging noises filled the air as countless divine weapons howled in rage. Outside the divine formation of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, a supremely powerful divine formation that could destroy everything appeared. This divine formation radiated a terrifying light as countless divine weapons shot out, slamming into the protective formation of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. The light screen trembled violently. The Qin Heavenly Divine Sect that covered the Boundless Sea region was also trembling. Countless people inclined their heads and stared at the scene in the air as their hearts pounded violently. There was actually an enemy who directly attacked their Qin heavenly divine sect? Given their guts, how strong were their enemies exactly? In just a short instant, the divine formation shattered as the light screen dissipated. Some of the heavenly deities inside had heavy expressions on their faces. Namhuang Yunxi and Nanfeng Xinge both had a look of worry in their eyes. The current Che Ho was simply too powerful, causing them to feel stifled. Could it be that his strength was truly comparable to a god king like in the rumors? He had never threatened Qin Wendian before. Che Ho, the Qin Kuan sect leader, stepped out. He had already joined the Qin Heavenly Divine sect, but because they betrayed the alliance in the past, although Qin Wendian didn't blame them, it was impossible for them to trust each other as much as they did in the past. At this moment, Che Ho killed his way here. They naturally had to stand out to protect the Qin Heavenly Divine sect. If not, they most probably wouldn't have a place in the Qin Heavenly Divine sect anymore. Have you also become someone's dog? Che Ho calmly glanced at the Qiankuan sect leader. Even his mocking voice was as cold as a weapon. What exactly happened back then? Why was the Che clan destroyed? It doesn't seem like the Qin Heavenly Divine sect did this, right? The Qiankuan sect leader asked. Why did Che Ho's body undergo such an intense transformation? Since you are already a dog, why don't you follow me in the future? I can spare your life. Che Ho didn't reply to the Qiankuan sect leader's question. Che Ho, you are too impudent. The Qiankuan sect leader's voice was cold. A Qiankuan formation diagram appeared behind him, blotting out the sky and radiating an incomparably terrifying divine might. Do you think that the current you can still contend against me? Many of Che Ho's silhouettes spoke at the same time. After that, each of them radiated a dazzling divine glow as they shot towards the Qiankuan sect leader. At this moment, there seemed to be constellations cascading down from the sky above the Qin Heavenly Divine sect, the radiance enveloping everything. The Qiankuan sect leader roared in rage. His boundless law body manifested as an incomparably terrifying shadow appeared. He was like a supreme divinity as the energy of heaven and earth gathered together. It was like the energy of the entire world was under his control. Day turned into night as the projection of the boundless starry sky cascaded downwards. Those attacks didn't directly shoot towards the Qiankuan sect leader. Instead, they transformed into divine weapons that locked down the entire space with the Qiankuan sect leader at the center. Under the starry sky, the divine weapons seemed to have locked down the entire starry sky, radiating the most resplendent light. Destroy. A cold voice rang out from the night sky. The light radiating from the divine weapon that froze the space transformed into a supreme destructive might that could reap everything. At this instant, the Qiankuan sect leader felt how tiny and insignificant he was for the first time. Before this power, he basically had no way to contend against it. He could only wait for death. The boundless law body shattered. The Qiankuan sect leader's countenance turned pale. That destructive might that represented the supremacy of the heavens and earth bore down on him. Even the Qiankuan reversal force was useless. It was directly countered. Qiankuan energy basically didn't belong to him. He had no way to use any of the energy in this world. Just as the destructive might was about to descend, at this moment, the space distorted. The Qiankuan sect leader directly vanished from his original location. The night sky returned to normal. The divine weapons were still radiating a dazzling light. In the air, Che Ho's silhouette could be seen. His gaze was cold as he stared at the two figures before him. The two generations of the Qiankuan sect leader appeared there. The person who acted to save the Qiankuan sect leader earlier was none other than the old sect leader. No matter what, you are still a hegemon of an era, the former leader of the Qiankuan sect. It's extremely rare to find someone like you in this world. Now, you have actually fallen to the point of becoming Qin Wentian's dog. Do you want to guard the gate for him? Che Ho stared at the old sect leader as he spoke. Che Ho, you can be considered my junior. Although I don't know what you experienced to transform, can you not see that the era that belonged to you has already passed? The halo of light on you has already faded away. Your fate is already determined. If you still insist on going the wrong way, I'm afraid you won't have a good ending," the old sect master advised. His voice revealed a feeling of having seen through the vicissitudes of life. He, who had enjoyed countless years of glory and experienced countless years, could also see a bit of fate in the unseen world. The era was destined to change, and no one could change it. Since the Che clan has already become a thing of the past, even if Che Ho returned, he most probably wouldn't be able to change the predestined fate. History wouldn't stop because of him. How ridiculous! The era has indeed changed, but the era that belongs to me has just begun. Some people are destined to never decay. Since you are willing to fall, there's no need for you to continue existing in this world. Che Ho coldly spoke, his cold voice filled with killing intent. Even for the old sect leader of the Qiankuan sect, he still didn't place him in his eyes. No one was clearer than him what sort of existence he was. The Che Ho of the past could at most only be considered a part of his current body. Also, it was a very small part. He was born from seizing the fortune of the heavens and earth, using the blood, sweat, and tears of countless people. He was created by the heavens and earth, gathering the spirits of all living things. Powerful divine formations, divine weapons, heavenly deities, all of them were merely a part of him. Could it be that the current him wasn't qualified to become the ruler of an era? What an arrogant tone! A voice rang out. In the air, in the direction of the heaven vault, a figure descended. This figure was incomparably handsome and exuded an unparalleled aura. His body shone with the resplendent light. "I don't care who you are. Since you dared to kill a heavenly deity of my divine sect and destroy the grand formation of my sect, you have to die." Jun Mengchen coldly spoke. His entire body shone with a dazzling light, like the most resplendent gemstone in the world. The might of an emperor radiating from him was even more outstanding. It was like he was born to be a king and was destined to be one. Numerous figures flew out from the heaven vault. All of them were heavenly deities. Each of their auras were extraordinary and extremely tyrannical. The people of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect heaved a sigh of relief when they saw their arrival. This was especially so for one of them. That incomparably handsome young man was none other than Qin Wenyin. Qin Wenyin merely glanced at Che Ho before turning his gaze to Nanfeng Xinge. His silhouette flashed and appeared beside her. A jade-green light enveloped Nanfeng Xinge as a Dao art manifested. Nanfeng Xinge's severed arm actually grew back. Her skin was like jade, like that of an infant. "Thank you." Nanfeng Xinge's beautiful eyes stared at Qin Wenyin as she smiled warmly, like she didn't really mind her injuries. "It's good that you are fine. Be more careful next time," Qin Wenyin reminded. Before this, he had already gathered his friends and family into the heaven vault because he wanted to guard against Che Ho. He was worried that the incident with little Yi back then would happen again. But he didn't expect Che Ho to appear in such a manner. In addition, when he didn't know about it, the heaven vault had already sent out heavenly deities. Although many heavenly deities were born in the heaven vault now, the death of each heavenly deity still caused Qin Wenyin to feel heartache. These heavenly deities were all core powers nurtured by the heaven vault. They were all loyal subordinates who had followed him for many years. In fact, even Namhuang Yunxi and Nanfeng Xinge almost died. This was simply unforgivable. "You came out." Che Ho's cold voice rang out. Qin Wenyin turned his gaze over. His expression was as cold as ice, filled with intense killing intent. "Back then, every time you appeared, you would grow stronger. Now, more than 10 years have passed. The current you, do you still have the luck you had back then?" Che Ho stared at Qin Wenyin. Although the two of them didn't have much contact, Qin Wenyin was someone who left a deep impression on all the experts in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Qin Wentian's eyes turned golden, capable of penetrating through everything. He stared at the silhouettes of Che Ho and discovered that although each of them looked the same, they were different as well. They all had different Daos. Being able to have so many incarnations and each incarnation had a different Dao, what had Che Ho experienced during these years? "You fused the power of everyone in the Che clan?" Qin Wendian suddenly asked. "Could it be that the people of the Che clan were all killed by you? Or did they die because of you?" Che-ho's cold eyes flashed. The Che clan will perish because of you. Because of me? Qin Wendian laughed. Back then, it was always your Che clan that acted against me. In fact, I didn't even have time to take revenge before your Che clan disappeared. Now, the Che clan has been destroyed, but you aren't willing to admit your sins and want to vent your anger on me. How ridiculous. Naturally, all of this is no longer important. Between you and me, one of us has to disappear eventually. Che-ho's many incarnations and divine weapons all fused back into one, becoming the true Che-ho. He agreed with Qin Wentian's words. Everything in the past doesn't matter. Now, only the victor can live. What about Qin Yuanfeng? The two of you, father and son, can come together. Che-ho calmly spoke. Back then when Qin Yuanfeng descended from the heaven vault, he gave him a feeling of invincibility. Now that he has returned, he wanted to experience Qin Yuanfeng's strength for himself. Chapter 2006. Arrogant. Jun Mingchen's voice was cold. Although Che-ho's transformation was extremely tyrannical, he actually dared to kill his way into the heaven vault alone. In addition, he even boasted that he wanted to fight against his senior brother and his father. This was simply too arrogant. He stepped out and stared at Che-ho. Defeat me first before you challenge senior brother Qin. In the outside world, he had cultivated for over 10 years. His current strength could no longer be mentioned in the same breath as the past. During these 10+ years of silence, the era was changing. There were 3 hegemonic powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms, and the people of the world only knew that the Heaven Vault was one of them. But who knew how powerful the Heaven Vault was exactly now? You. Che-ho inclined his head and glanced at Jun Mingchen. Once, Jun Mingchen fought against him in the Heaven Vault, and he wasn't able to defeat Jun Mingchen even after a long time. Now, it was actually Jun Mingchen challenging him again. Jun Mingchen truly didn't know the immensity of death. I'll grant you your wish. As the sound of Che-ho's voice faded, his body vanished from his original location. It was like he had teleported as he shot towards Jun Mingchen with lightning speed. At this moment, Che-ho was no longer a human but a supreme divine weapon that wanted to tear apart everything. That beam of divine light illuminated this entire space. The golden beam of divine light seemed to be able to tear apart space itself as it instantly appeared before Jun Mingchen. The gemstone light on Jun Mingchen grew even more resplendent. It was like a world was protecting him. His body was the world itself. He punched out, clashing head-on with Che-ho. The 2 beams of divine light clashed together, and in that instant, the intense light was so blinding that it could tear apart everything. A terrifying spatial vortex appeared as boundless beams of light shot out in all directions. Each beam of light could tear apart a heavenly deity. Qin Wendian stretched out his hand and grabbed at the air. A moment later, a terrifying spatial vortex appeared around the 2 of them, burying all the beams of light within. The aftershocks of their battle were sufficient to destroy the entire Qin heavenly divine sect. Jun Mingchen's body was flung backwards as he groaned in pain. The gemstone light around him seemed to have cracks on it. His eyes stared at Che-ho as a look of shock flashed through his eyes. Right now, the might of a single attack of his was sufficient to insta-kill ordinary heavenly deities. It was comparable to the destructive might of an entire world exploding. His body had also fused together with the world. He had the world physique and was invulnerable. However, when he clashed against Che-ho directly, he was actually at a disadvantage. What was Che-ho's current body exactly? Nobody knew that at this moment, Che-ho was also very shocked. Other than himself, no one knew what sort of body he had right now. He had fused with a supreme divine weapon in the world, yet Jun Mingchen was actually able to clash head-on with him? The attacks and defenses of the Tao of the world were truly terrifying. But so what of it? Even if it was a great world, he would still be able to tear it apart. Like a bolt of lightning, he shot out once more, appearing before Jun Mingchen. The divine light was still as bright as before. Che-ho's body transformed into an indomitable divine weapon. A world appeared around Jun Mingchen as a glass-like light flashed. Boundless energy from the heavens and earth gathered together, giving him an indestructible body. Bang! The human-form divine weapon penetrated through everything, tearing apart this world. Abruptly, Che-Ho's human-form divine weapon began to emit golden divine flames that enveloped Jun Mingchen's body as well as the surrounding space. The divine flames directly incinerated all existences, containing a world-refining might that caused the entire world to be on fire. No other energy could exist in the midst of these divine flames. Jun Mingchen's world body was enveloped by the divine flames and started to burn. He roared in rage as the world light directly exploded. His body broke free from the restraints and broke free from this space. Below, the world-refining divine flames were like the most terrifying divine formation, continuing to refine the world. Under the might of the divine flames, everything would cease to exist. You aren't human. At this moment, a voice rang out from the heaven vault. Qin Yuanfeng's figure appeared in the air as he stared at Che-Ho. You are transformed from a divine weapon. The Che clan is the #1 weaponsmithing aristocrat clan in the supreme ancient immortal realms. You used the entire Che clan to refine a divine weapon, including yourself. Your Daos are all within this divine weapon. The eyes of everyone from the Qin heavenly divine sect gleamed with sharpness. No wonder they felt that Che-Ho was like a human-shaped divine weapon. So it turned out that he was already a divine weapon and not a human. Che-Ho stared at Qin Yuanfeng as a cold smile appeared on his face. One couldn't help but say that Qin Yuanfeng's conjecture was very close to the truth. It's true that I'm transformed from a divine weapon, but I'm still Che-Ho. Not only Che-Ho, the obsession of all the experts in the Che clan is in me. My Che clan created the #1 divine weapon in the supreme ancient immortal realms. This divine weapon is none other than me. Using the strength of the entire Che clan to be buried together with the divine weapon. Is it worth it? Qin Yuanfeng sighed. A divine weapon is ultimately a divine weapon. Humans are its rulers. However, your Che clan is actually being controlled by a divine weapon. How lamentable. Lamentable? Using the strength of the Che clan and the obsession of the Che clan as one, I became the strongest in the supreme ancient immortal realms. How is that lamentable? I shall inherit the will of the entire Che clan and dominate the supreme ancient immortal realms. Your heaven vault will be the witnesses. Che-Ho laughed uproariously. As the sound of his voice faded, boundless divine light radiated from him. Each beam of divine light was comparable to a divine weapon as they shot out in all directions, wanting to destroy the entire Qin heavenly divine sect. Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with a startling divine light. At this instant, the space and time in this area seemed to be covered by his eyes. Space and time twisted as it spun. Che-Ho frowned. At the next moment, he discovered that his surroundings had changed. This place was no longer the Qin heavenly divine sect but was the starry space instead. In this place, other than him, only Qin Wentian was here. The attack he unleashed didn't target anyone but vanished into the void instead. An extremely terrifying space-time Dao. With a single glance, time and space twisted. After over 10 years, Qin Wentian was the same as before, transforming again. It was the same every time without exception. Right now, his Dao grew stronger and stronger, constantly nearing the pinnacle. Since you want to fight against me, I'll grant you your wish. Qin Wentian calmly spoke. His 10 million years of cultivation far surpassed the total amount of time he spent cultivating in the past. How could his transformation not be great? Although at his current cultivation realm, it was extremely difficult for him to improve even a single step. If not, the strength of those heavenly deities in the supreme ancient immortal realms wouldn't have remained the same even after so many years. After becoming a heavenly deity, one had to comprehend the Tao. If one's comprehension abilities weren't high enough, it would be very hard for them to advance further. However, he had a natural advantage in the heaven vault. Inside there, he could ascend constellations and comprehend the Tao. His comprehension abilities would naturally be stronger. Qin Wentian has cultivated for tens of millions of years in the heaven vault. He was no longer someone who could be compared to him back then when he destroyed the Thunder Clan. Seems like I have to be more serious. Che-Ho's voice was cold. His entire body radiated divine light as boundless divine inscriptions appeared in the starry space. These were true divine inscriptions of the great Tao. They were like a gigantic net that covered this entire space. This golden divine net seemed to be nurturing a chaos divine formation. From within, divine weapons of the great Tao could be seen, gradually taking form. This scene was similar to the scene when Che Ho first created the great Tao. Qin Wentian glanced at the surroundings. This place was covered by the terrifying chaos divine formation. The divine flames and weapons of the great Tao contained an inconceivable might of the great Tao. This entire space was sealed by the chaos divine formation. Divine flames gushed out, shooting towards Qin Wentian. At this moment, Qin Wentian was in the center of the destructive might. The divine flames and weapons of the great Tao gushed over together, transforming into an incomparably destructive might. Ordinary heavenly deities would most probably die if they came in contact with it. Most probably, peak-stage heavenly deities would all die here. This scene was too terrifying. It felt like the might of an apocalypse. Even if you can open up a dimension of space-time, in the supreme ancient immortal realms, all space-time exists within this dimension. This destructive might engulfs everything in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Even if you hide in a dimension of space-time, you would still be destroyed. Che Ho coldly spoke. A truly powerful killing move could ignore the Tao of space-time. Qin Wentian wouldn't be able to escape. You're right. However, why should I hide? Qin Wentian stared at Che Ho's figure. He stared at the incomparably destructive might. His eyes were so calm that it caused one to feel a sense of terror. A formless energy manifested in the air. This was the power of the great Tao. It enveloped this space-time, seeping into the incoming attacks. Space-time reversal. Qin Wentian spoke. In an instant, those attacks suddenly stopped. After that, they actually didn't continue to rush towards Qin Wentian. Instead, they flowed against the flow and returned to the chaos divine formation, disappearing bit by bit. The supreme Tao of slaughter vanished just like that. Che Ho's expression turned extremely unsightly when he saw this scene. He roared in rage, "Kill!" As the sound of his voice faded, the killing moves erupted forth once more, continuing to rush towards Qin Wentian. However, the Tao of space-time reversal controlled the Tao in this space-time. Hence, a strange scene appeared in this space-time. The killing moves continued to move back and forth, in a stalemate. It was like they were competing to see whose control over the Tao was stronger and whose Tao was deeper. You were refined by gathering the power of creation of the world, but you have never truly comprehended a Tao. Instead, you were born naturally. Even if you truly control the peerless power of slaughter, I only need to control your Tao. How can you kill me? Qin Wentian coldly spoke. He inclined his head and stared at the chaos divine formation that enveloped this space. His eyes were terrifying to the extreme. After that, space and time split apart as the chaos divine formation was forcefully broken apart from the center by a heaven-shaking Tao art. No matter how powerful the chaos divine formation was, it was ultimately the energy of this space-time. Qin Wentian used his Tao to sever the space-time, causing the divine formation to naturally break apart. In the sky, as the chaos divine formation continued to be torn apart, the might of the formation also vanished. That supreme killing force was dissipated by Qin Wentian's space-time Tao. Although it was the Tao of the past, the difference in might was so great that it could be considered a transformation. Any type of Tao, when cultivated to the extreme, would possess unfathomable might. In addition, the Tao of space-time itself contained the utmost truths of the heavenly Tao. It was a Tao that belonged to the pinnacle. In the past, the God King of Time wanted to pursue the pinnacle, transcending the space-time of the supreme ancient immortal realms. Chapter 2007. Che Ho inclined his head and saw that the divine formation in the sky was destroyed by the space-time slash. His eyes were as cold as ever. I didn't expect that your Tao has already reached such a level. I was born from seizing the fortune of heaven and earth, but my Tao attack was actually broken apart. Che Ho seemed to be mumbling to himself. When he turned his gaze to Qin Wenyan again, his eyes grew even colder. There seemed to be numerous supreme divine weapons shooting out from his eyes, directly entering Qin Wenyan's body. However, wasn't Qin Wenyan's eyes as terrifying as well? With a single glance, time and space would distort. How could he be injured by the divine weapons in his eyes? However, I was born from seizing the fortune of heaven and earth. My true Tao is the origin of the great Tao, a supreme Tao. Do you understand what kind of Tao it is? Che Ho turned his gaze to Qin Wenyan again. His cold voice was filled with killing intent. It was like the battle earlier was merely an appetizer. He hadn't unleashed his true strength yet. No matter what Tao it is, it doesn't have the qualifications to make you so arrogant. Qin Wenyan calmly replied. Che Ho laughed. His laughter was as cold as ever. Chaos gave birth to heaven and earth. I seized the fortune of heaven and earth and was born from the myriad of Taos. Just like what you said, I truly don't have a deep comprehension of the Tao. However, my Tao is chaos. Chaos gives birth to the myriad of Taos and is the origin of the great Tao. How can I unleash my might in the midst of chaos? Che Ho coldly laughed as he stared at Qin Wenyan. After that, a golden-colored chaotic qi manifested from his body, turbid and indistinct. This qi gradually enveloped the entire sky, causing the entire space to enter a state of chaos. Che Ho opened his mouth and spat out chaos divine flames, wanting to incinerate everything. Within the turbid chaotic golden mist, a divine weapon of the great Tao was born and it shot towards Qin Wenyan. Qin Wenyan only felt that the surrounding energy of heaven and earth around him was no longer under his control. Under the might of the divine flames, crackling sounds rang out as they were incinerated. After that, that energy enveloped him, wanting to destroy him as well. Reverse. Qin Wenyan used his space-time Tao. However, in this turbid primordial chaos, space-time wasn't under his control. Chaos gave birth to a myriad of Taos. The Tao of space-time had no way to reverse the Tao of chaos. Qin Wenyan's eyes narrowed, feeling somewhat bewildered. He didn't expect that Che Ho would actually unleash the Tao of chaos. This isn't the true great Tao of chaos. Qin Wenyan silently mused. Chaos gave birth to everything in the world. If this was the grand Tao of chaos, it could easily turn him into ashes. In that case, Che Ho wasn't a character that was close to or comparable to a god king. At the very least, he should be an ancient god king existence or might even surpass them. That was the true ultimate Tao. Although this wasn't the true great Tao of chaos, Che Ho, who was born from the creation of heaven and earth, could still be considered a pseudo-chaos Tao. It already possessed a portion of the might of the true Tao of chaos and was incomparably tyrannical, capable of destroying everything. Qin Wenyan pulled out his sword. Sword chi rampaged through the turbid chaos chi, slashing apart the divine flames. In an instant, a billion strands of sword chi manifested around Qin Wenyan. The sword chi could tear apart the sky, but it had no way to destroy the chaotic energy here. In addition, Che Ho spat out more and more divine weapons of the great Tao. Each weapon contained a type of great Tao. In an instant, all sorts of Tao arts were unleashed, transforming into a chaotic vortex that could devour all energy. There was nothing that could block it. Behind Qin Wenyan, a pair of terrifying eyes suddenly appeared. His eyes radiated a divine light that could penetrate through everything. In the sky, in the 9 heavenly layers, a divine starry sky gaze descended from the heavens. Stop! Qin Wenyan coldly spoke. The divine starry sky gaze and the pair of eyes behind him simultaneously projected their light onto the divine weapons of the great Tao. At this instant, all sorts of Tao art stopped. Time and space seemed to have stopped. This was no longer the pure meaning of the Tao of spacetime. Che Ho inclined his head and stared at the sky as he furrowed his brows. Qin Wenyan actually caused the divine starry sky gaze to descend, landing on his Tao art. How powerful was this? It was like Qin Wenyan had fused together with the heavens and earth. That constellation seemed to have fused together with Qin Wenyan, transforming into Qin Wenyan's energy. The divine starry sky gaze landed on Che Ho. Qin Wenyan's gaze also turned to Che Ho. At this instant, Cheho's body seemed to have frozen. He could sense an incomparably powerful sealing energy, sealing time and space, sealing his life. However, Cheho's hand still moved. He pointed at Qin Wenyin. His eyes were cold to the extreme as he spoke. "Your Tao won't be able to seal me." "Is that so?" Qin Wenyin coldly spoke. The divine starry sky grew even more resplendent, projecting its light onto Cheho's body. At this instant, Cheho only felt that his soul was about to be stripped away, sealed within the divine starry sky gaze, causing him to be unable to move. "I'm transformed from a divine weapon. How can I have a soul?" Cheho coldly spoke as though he was mumbling to himself. "Since you have transformed into a human and gained sentience, you are a living being. All living beings have souls, you are the same as well. If not, you would just be a walking corpse. How can you think?" Qin Wenyin coldly spoke. His words seemed to shake Cheho. Cheho's body violently struggled, but no matter how much he struggled, he was still under immense pressure. "I'm a divine weapon, how can I have a soul?" Cheho coldly snorted, wanting to break free from the divine starry sky gaze. "Weapons have their own souls, they can still be sealed." Qin Wenyin coldly replied. The divine starry sky gaze was another supreme Tao of Qin Wenyin. It was a sealing Tao that was cultivated to an extremely terrifying realm. The sealing Tao was all-encompassing and could be fused with many other Taos, transforming into unfathomable divine Tao energy that could transform into heaven-defying divine arts, possessing boundless might. Just like this moment, the divine starry sky gaze manifested, wanting to seal Cheho's soul. A divine weapon without a soul was an ownerless item that could be manipulated by others. Whoever obtained it, it would belong to that person. "Seems like I have still underestimated you." Cheho coldly spoke. He didn't expect that in just over 10 years, Qin Wentian's Tao had already reached such a tyrannical level. It could even be compared to him who was born from the heavens and earth, seizing the fortune of heaven and earth. Qin Wenyin was using his flesh and blood to fight against the heavens. This so-called number one genius of the supreme ancient immortal realms truly lived up to his reputation. "I truly didn't expect that even until today, I still can't kill you." Cheho's body radiated a supremely sharp aura. His entire person transformed into a divine weapon, humming as the power of the myriad Taos radiated from him, causing cracks to appear on the sealing energy that was binding him. After that, the divine starry sky gaze dimmed a little. A bolt of lightning broke through the sealing energy and vanished from this space like a shooting star, as though it had never existed before. Qin Wenyin inclined his head and stared at the disappearing beam of light in the sky as he frowned. He couldn't make Cheho stay. Even after exhausting his entire cultivation base, it was still impossible for him to do so. Most probably, he wouldn't be able to take revenge for the disciples of the divine sect in a short period of time. This Cheho would be an extremely great hidden danger in the future. His strength was simply too powerful, he was truly a terrifying character. Space-time twisted. Qin Wentian's figure vanished together with this space-time. At the next instant, he returned to the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. Upon seeing him returning safely, the people of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect all had relaxed expressions on their faces. Their tensed hearts finally relaxed. They could clearly see how powerful Cheho was. If something happened to Qin Wenyin, the consequences would be unimaginably dire. "Senior brother." Jun Mingchen stepped out, staring at Qin Wenyin. Cheho was born from the creation energy of heaven and earth. The Tao he controls has the shadow of the great Tao of chaos. "I can't make him stay." Qin Wenyin spoke in a light voice. "I didn't expect that even your divine eyes have no way to make him stay. Seems like the supreme ancient immortal realms is already in a period of turmoil." Qin Yuanfeng sighed. During these years, he and Qin Wenyin would often discuss the Tao together. He naturally knew how strong his son was. Divine eyes could draw in the divine eyes of the constellations and infuse them into one's Tao. If the divine eyes were projected onto the body of a person, they would be able to seal the soul of that person within the divine eyes, unable to extricate themselves. This was an extremely powerful usage of the Tao of sealing fused with the Tao of spacetime, borrowing the supreme might of the constellations in the sky. Once he leaves, he would definitely be a calamity in the future. He would be the same as Yu Changkung. The Heaven Vault would have another great enemy. Qin Wendian sighed. This was something he didn't expect. A Che Ho actually appeared out of nowhere in the Che clan, transforming to such a terrifying extent that he had the strength to threaten the Heaven Vault. Counter soldiers with generals. You still have to cultivate well and break through your limits. If you can reach that level, so what even if the 8 God Kings of the supreme ancient immortal realms all return? Qin Yuanfeng spoke heroically. Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with sharpness. His father's words were right. Everyone in the world would pursue transcendence. At his level, as long as he could truly transcend the 9 heavenly layers, even if the God King of the Western Paradise, God King Gu, and the Moon God all teleported back, so what? Naturally, if the God King of the Western Paradise first transcended the 9 heavenly layers, it would be the same as well. In that case, it would be the doomsday of the Heaven Vault. Chapter 2008. Che Ho's arrival caused everyone in the Heaven Vault to feel a sense of danger. Jun Mingchen was also stimulated and entered closed-door seclusion. The outside world was also shaken because of Che Ho's strength and also because of how terrifying Qin Wenyan was. It was rumored that during the battle between Che Ho and Qin Wenyan, Che Ho unleashed the primal chaos Grand Tao, manifesting a myriad of Daos and arts, wanting to destroy the 9 heavenly layers and 10 earths. However, Qin Wenyan actually fused with the constellations in the 9 heavenly layers. A divine eye descended from the heavens as the Tao of sealing and the Tao of spacetime fused together, borrowing the power of the constellations to unleash a supreme Tao art. Only then did he manage to block Che Ho and forced him to retreat. Other than this, Qin Wentian's usage of the Tao of spacetime was already extraordinary. He could distort time and space with a single glance, traversing boundless distances. With a single thought, he could reach the heavens. Right now, even if he didn't rely on the Heaven Vault, given Qin Wentian's powerful cultivation base, he would be able to ascend to the 9 heavenly layers to cultivate. The Heaven Vault was the ruins left behind by God King Shi. God King Shi was an ancient God King, and right now, Qin Wenyan, Che Ho and the others were already close to his level. They naturally wouldn't be too far away from him. In the past, there weren't so many such terrifying characters that appeared in the supreme ancient immortal realms. The era changed. Although many heavenly deities of the supreme ancient immortal realms fell, the people of the world still saw an even more glorious era. According to rumors, just the number of heavenly deities born in the Heaven Vault right now might already be comparable to the total number of heavenly deities from the various hegemonic powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms. Although some people felt that this was unbelievable, there was a high possibility that this was true. Once, in the 8 regions of the supreme ancient immortal realms, each hegemonic power only had a few heavenly deities. A hegemonic power with over 10 heavenly deities was already considered a peak power. But now, the Heaven Vault only needed to reveal the tip of the iceberg to be comparable to the deities of the supreme ancient immortal realms in the past. Also, these people weren't considered characters at the very peak. For example, Qin Wenyan and his father Qin Yuanfeng. These 2 people could contend against all the deities of the supreme ancient immortal realms other than the Western Paradise. Other than the 2 of them, Qin Wentian's junior brother Jun Mingchen and his demonic beast already had the strength to fight against the hegemonic powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms in the past. How strong would they be now? No matter how one looked at it, the current supreme ancient immemorial era was only stronger than before. In fact, it was much stronger than before. This was a cruel era. The weak would be eliminated. Even for a peak power like the deity race, it was still the same. They were destroyed one after another, some were annexed, some were reduced to the dust of history. Only those who were truly at the peak could continue to exist. Also, among them, there would be a struggle until the very end. In the end, the primordial king could only be a single power. The Western Paradise was still as pure and holy as ever. Recently, the Western world was filled with peace. Auspicious qi enveloped the entire region as golden light illuminated the area. In this golden world, many people gathered in temples or in their homes, chanting Buddhic chants. Buddhic light radiated from their bodies, permeating the air, transforming into even stronger auspicious qi that permeated the entire Western world. This caused some experts who came from other regions to feel shock in their hearts. The Western world seemed to be changing. With a single glance, they could see that everyone in the Western world was chanting Buddhic chants as though there was a mysterious force calling them to do so. This scene was too terrifying. Although they felt that something was wrong, no one could stop it. They knew that the source of everything was the Western paradise, the sacred ground of the Buddhist sect. In the Western world, because everyone was chanting Buddhic chants and cultivating Buddhic arts, auspicious golden light permeated the entire world, forcing all evil to retreat. Numerous illusionary Buddhas actually appeared in the sky. These Buddhas stood in the air, radiating golden light, incomparably holy and pure. This caused countless Buddhists to prostrate themselves on the ground, feeling even more pious in their hearts. And in the Western paradise, an ancient Buddha shadow also appeared. It was like the Supreme Buddha Lord of the Western paradise. As the Buddhic light from the Western world gathered, this Buddha shadow grew taller and taller, extending all the way to the sky, transforming into the largest Buddha in the world. Even for people who were extremely far away, they could see or sense the existence of this Buddha. Behind the ancient Buddha, there was a great sun that resembled the great Buddha Lord. 81 halos of light revolved around it, imprinting the images of all living beings. Everything in the Western world seemed to be projected within, including the images and intents of all living beings. This was simply inconceivable. In the Western paradise, many Buddhists sat on praying mats, closing their eyes and chanting Buddhic chants. Even for Buddha lords and sacred Buddhas, all of them were extremely pious. They knew that the Buddha Lord has truly returned. From then on, the Buddhist Tao flourished. Far away in the heaven vault of the heaven region, Qin Wenyan and Qin Yuanfeng seemed to have sensed something. They who were cultivating inclined their heads and stared at the sky. Many constellations were extremely resplendent, radiating boundless light that cascaded towards the west. In the air, the image of a Buddha could be faintly seen. Such a scene was simply inconceivable. Seems like the Western sovereign has returned. Qin Yuanfeng also saw this scene. He mumbled in a low voice. After that, his divine sense contacted Qin Wenyan as he transmitted his voice. Wenyan, don't waver. Focus on your cultivation. Qin Wenyan nodded. Buddhists have a cycle of reincarnation every day. Since he is the Buddha Lord, every time he cultivates, it would be a cycle of reincarnation. Although he is returning, it might take a very long time. Qin Yuanfeng continued. The cultivation arts of the Buddhist path were extremely unique. Every time they meditated, it might be a cycle of reincarnation. It might take 100 years, or even 1,000 years. As for the God King of the Buddhist path, his cultivation was like a cycle of reincarnation. No one knew how long it would take for him to truly return. Hence, Qin Yuanfeng advised him not to waver. Qin Wenyan also understood that although the Western world was domineering in the past, the Buddha Lord couldn't truly return. If not, many things wouldn't be so simple. Back then, he also couldn't leave the Western world. This time was the true return of the Buddha Lord. All the powerful cultivators in the supreme ancient immortal realms sensed the phenomenon. After that, they gradually learned of what happened in the Western world. All of their hearts trembled violently. The God King of the universe region has returned. Is the time for the supreme ancient immortal realms about to unify the supreme ancient immortal realms? In a certain location in the supreme ancient immortal realms, there was a palace of darkness that stood at the peak of a mountain. It was majestic and majestic, filled with countless experts. This place was none other than the place where Yu Changkong was currently cultivating. At this moment, at the boundary of the Palace of Darkness, a figure walked over. This figure was none other than Yu Changkong, but at the same time, he wasn't Yu Changkong. Because, right now, his aura was too terrifying. How could it be compared to the Yu Changkong of the past? He was the same as Che Ho. He had long transformed, and his transformation was even more thorough compared to Che Ho. Yu Changkong's gaze turned to the west as an evil smile appeared on his face. Was he finally going to return? Only then would things be interesting. If not, his life in this lifetime would truly be too lonely. A resplendent bolt of lightning descended from the sky, landing beside Yu Changkong. Yu Changkong didn't turn his head. He calmly asked, "Have you considered it clearly?" "I promise you, I will destroy the heaven vault first." That figure coldly spoke. So it turned out that this figure was none other than Che Ho. Back then, after leaving the heaven vault, he came here to look for Yu Changkong. "That's right. I will head to the Western world and convince them to seize the heaven vault first. After that, you and I will join forces to destroy the Western paradise." Yu Changkong calmly spoke. "After that, you will destroy me? Returning to the supreme ancient immortal realms?" Che Ho calmly spoke. Although he was born from a divine weapon, he had fused with the spirit of a divine weapon. His intelligence was no different from humans. "If you destroy me, I will also return to the supreme ancient immortal realms." Yu Changkong calmly spoke. The words of the two of them were so direct, not bothering to conceal anything. At their level, there was no need to hide anything. Who didn't know what the other was thinking? "I'll wait for your news." Che Ho's figure transformed into a bolt of lightning and instantly vanished. Yu Changkong still calmly stood there. He suddenly spoke, "Men, come over." As the sound of his voice faded, an expert instantly appeared. It was actually a hegemonic character of the supreme ancient immortal realms, the prison god clan leader. He bowed and stood behind Yu Changkong. "Release the news." Once, among the 8 god kings of the supreme ancient immortal realms, the god king of the desolate region was known as God King Desolate. He was a gigantic heaven-devouring beast that could devour the constellations in the 9 heavenly layers. However, because of this, he suffered a backlash and was heavily injured. The God King of the Universe region took this opportunity and used a supreme Buddhist art to suppress him in the Western paradise. After countless years, Desolate has been absorbing the God King's energy. Yu Changkong calmly spoke. As for the prison god clan leader behind him, waves of shock rose in his heart. This was another ancient secret. Why did Yu Changkong release this news? Was it to destroy the image of the God King of the Universe region? Gods, Buddhas, demons and devils? Yu Changkong coldly laughed. In the supreme ancient immortal realms, only supreme existences could set all rules, including good and evil. His figure flashed and instantly vanished from his location, heading towards the Western world. He was preparing to see the Buddha sovereign who had just returned. Chapter 2009. In the supreme ancient immortal realms, the God King of the Universe region returned, causing a commotion in the world. After that, a piece of news circulated around the supreme ancient immortal realms. One of the 8 ancient God Kings, God King Desolate, was actually a heaven-devouring beast king. He was injured by a backlash when he was cultivating, and after that, he was ambushed by the God King of the Universe region and was suppressed in the Western paradise, seizing everything he had. This news toppled the views of many people towards the Buddha. However, some experts were shocked, but they didn't feel that this was unbelievable. At that level, the competition would be extremely brutal. They understood in their hearts that regardless of gods or Buddhas, they were all humans. Humans weren't sages. As the saying goes, a general's success was built on the bones of 10,000 people. In addition, if one wanted to ascend to the peak of the world, one could very well imagine how many corpses one would have to trample on. Just like in this era, the Western world, Heaven Vault, Yu Changkong, Che Ho, these 4 were the representatives of the peak of the supreme ancient immortal realms. A war would definitely erupt between them, and at that time, it was unknown how many people would die. Everyone in the world could sense that this day was about to arrive. In the supreme ancient immortal realms, a storm was about to engulf the world. This news naturally circulated to the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect and into Qin Wentian's ears. After he learned of this, his heart turned cold. Seems like his conjecture was right. Little Rascal actually had a powerful origin, and that so-called Lord of the Reincarnation Buddha was actually so despicable. Naturally, Qin Wenyin had already experienced the methods of the Western paradise. Regardless of the Karma Buddha or the Reincarnation Buddha, which of their methods weren't despicable? He thought that if the Buddhists were like the Bodhi abbot he met back then, they most probably wouldn't be able to establish the Western paradise. True Buddhas weren't in the Western paradise. The Buddhas of the Western paradise were Buddhas that worshipped strength. What they cultivated wasn't kindness but strength. Qin Wenyin initially wanted to hide this from Little Rascal, but he still found out eventually. Back then when he dreamt of his parents, Little Rascal felt uneasy. After he learned of the truth, he roared in rage in the heaven vault and transformed into a gigantic beast, radiating a baleful aura. He wanted to kill his way into the Western world and destroy the Western paradise. Qin Wentian's figure appeared, blocking Qin Wentian's path. Little Rascal. Right now, the Western world is undergoing a huge transformation. The God King of the Western world has returned, and he would surely possess extraordinary innate techniques. It's probably impossible for you to kill him now. That was a true God King who had lived from the ancient era until now. Now that he had caused such a huge commotion and returned, it meant that he was about to return. Even if Qin Wenyin was extremely confident in his own strength, he didn't dare to say that he could deal with the God King of the universe region. A true God King existence. It was even more impossible for them to deal with Little Rascal. They needed more time compared to the Western world. I'm going to devour that bald donkey. Little Rascal coldly spoke. His baleful aura transformed into terrifying demonic clouds. It was one thing if he didn't know of his origins. But now that he knew that he was the descendant of God King Desolate and his parents were killed by the bald donkey, one could very well imagine the killing intent in his heart. I will take revenge for you. Not only for you, I will also take revenge for Little Yi. But now it isn't time yet. Our enemies aren't only the Western world. There is also Yu Changkong who is eyeing us like a tiger eyeing its prey. In addition to Che Ho's hostility, no one knows when he would kill his way to the heaven vault again. We need to grow stronger, we need to become stronger than ever before. Qin Wentian spoke. It wasn't that he didn't want to kill. In truth, although he killed the Karma Buddha, could the Karma Buddha be the only target of Little Ye's hatred? The Western world has always coveted his heaven vault and once pushed the hegemonic powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms to attack the heaven vault. Everything that happened in the past was because of hatred. He was the same as Little Rascal. He wanted nothing more than to raise that place to flat ground. Little Rascal turned his gaze over and stared at Qin Wenyin. His eyes were crimson, resembling a pair of blood-colored eyes. Qin Wenyin felt his heart trembling when he saw Little Rascal's eyes. He couldn't bear to see Little Rascal like this. He spoke, "If you want to go, I will accompany you to the Western paradise." A low-sounding roar rang out from Little Rascal's mouth. His voice was hoarse, like he was trying to suppress his emotions. He stared at Qin Wentian's eyes. The two of them have been together for so many years and their hearts have long been connected. He knew that Qin Wenyin was speaking the truth and was willing to accompany him on this trip. However, could he really lose his rationality for the sake of revenge and harm Qin Wenyin? Turning his head, Little Rascal glanced at the heaven vault. Behind him, there were many familiar faces. These people had accompanied him for tens of millions of years. These people were already his family and also Qin Wentian's closest kin. All of them needed Qin Wentian's protection. With a maniacal roar, Little Rascal's gigantic body turned and soared into the starry space, soaring up into the 9 heavenly layers as he devoured the astral light from the 9 heavenly layers. Qin Wenyin could imagine how much pain and pressure Little Rascal was feeling. It was the same as back then when he learned of what the Qin clan did to his father, Qin Yuanfeng. His anger was so intense that it wanted to incinerate everything. He wanted nothing more than to slaughter his way up to the 9 heavenly layers and slaughter the entire Qin clan to avenge his father. But even so, Little Rascal still endured it. For him, and also for the heaven vault. Right now, the situation in the supreme ancient immortal realms wasn't calm. The Western Paradise and Yu Changkong were already extremely tough to deal with. Now that Che Ho appeared, the pressure on the Heaven Vault surpassed all other hegemonic powers. Qin Wenyan ordered people to monitor the movements of the various powers. The people of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect were prepared to retreat into the Heaven Vault at any moment in case of any changes in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. He clearly knew that if there were any changes in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, it would definitely be earth-shattering. As for himself, he led his experts into the Heaven Vault for cultivation. In fact, he even allowed the heavenly deities of the Qiankuan sect and 9 Heavens Mystical Palace to enter the Heaven Vault. Right now, the Heaven Vault needed strength to deal with the changes that would occur in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. Several days later, a person arrived at the Heaven Vault. The people of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect didn't obstruct him and directly allowed him to enter. Because the person who arrived was none other than the old man who once used a black cloud to appear in the Heaven Vault, the Grim Reaper. It was rumored that the sect leader of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, the controller of the Heaven Vault, Qin Wenyan, had obtained his inheritance. The people of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect naturally wouldn't obstruct him. Qin Wenyan soon received the news from his subordinates. After that, he ended his cultivation and went to meet with the crazy old freak. The appearance of the crazy old freak at this moment was extremely significant to him. Right now, the Heaven Vault was in urgent need of peak experts. "Old fellow, you are finally willing to appear again." Qin Wenyan stared at the crazy old freak as he spoke. This old freak was extremely secretive. It was truly difficult to meet with him. "But, do you feel the pressure?" The crazy old freak glanced at Qin Wenyan. "Aren't you already very strong now?" "I've never fought against a true ancient God King before. But from God King Shi's methods, I'm still inferior to him now." Qin Wenyan replied. "You finally have some self-awareness. This time around, the bald donkey from the Western world has returned. He would only be stronger than before. You have to be prepared." The bald donkey from the Western world has comprehended another great Tao and might initiate a great war that engulfs the entire Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, just like the world-ending battle in the past. The eyes of the crazy old freak were cold. Back then, the world-ending battle where Azure Mystic was annihilated was still vivid in his mind. Right now, the scene of the past might happen again. But this time around, the target was the Heaven Vault. "I won't allow what happened to Azure Mystic to happen again in the Heaven Vault. Old fellow, stay behind and assist me. Let's destroy the Western world together and take revenge for Azure Mystic." Qin Wenyan spoke. "Back then when you discovered the ancient battlefield, everyone already had hope for you. They hoped that one day, you would be able to conquer the 33 heavenly layers and unify the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. You would re-establish the order of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms and restore Azure Mystic to its former glory. I naturally won't sit idly by. Where is Princess Kitamura? Her cultivation base should be very strong now, right?" Qin Wenyan nodded. "Youwang's attainments in the soul aspect is extremely high. She also has the imperishable Heaven Lord's treasure. Right now, even if all the heavenly deities surround her, she wouldn't fear them at all. She can fight alone." "Alright, tell her to come here. I want to bring her away." The crazy old freak spoke. Qin Wenyan's eyes flashed, but he nodded after that. He didn't ask too much. This old freak spent so much effort to nurture him and Princess Kitamura, he naturally wouldn't harm them. He took out his messaging crystal and informed Yu Huang. Not long after, Princess Kitamura came over and greeted the crazy old freak. "Senior. Yu Huang, come with me." The crazy old freak spoke. Princess Kitamura turned her gaze to Qin Wenyan. Upon seeing this scene, the crazy old freak's lips twitched. "AI, her heart is already on someone's side. I'm only half a master, but my words are useless." Princess Kitamura blushed when she heard this. Her eyes trembled as she glanced at Qin Wenyan. "Yu Huang, you should go with the old freak." Qin Wenyan spoke. "Enichim." Princess Kitamura nodded. She then glanced at the crazy old freak. "Senior, let's go." "What a good maiden, this brat got lucky." The crazy old freak sighed and brought Princess Kitamura away. Qin Wenyin had a face filled with black lines as he stared at Yu Huang's back view. He was thinking in his heart, the next time they meet, Yu Huang would surely be even stronger, right? Since the crazy old freak brought her away, he definitely wouldn't do anything useless. It was just that it was unknown when she would return. Qin Wenyin had a premonition that when Yu Huang returned, it would be during the Great War of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. At that time, what sort of scene would it be? By his side, how many people would leave him? When he thought of this, an intense obsession appeared in his heart. He had to become stronger, stronger than ever before. Only by doing so would he be able to protect the people around him when the Great War of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms erupted. Chapter 2010. In the Heaven Vault, in the 9 heavenly layers of the 9 heavenly layers, there was a constellation in the shape of a giant Buddha. At this moment, a figure could be seen sitting cross-legged on this constellation. Although this figure was tiny, behind him, an incomparably gigantic ancient Buddha shadow actually appeared, wanting to fuse together with the constellation. Buddhic light shone resplendently as boundless Brahmic chants thundered through the heavens and earth. This Buddhic constellation contained tyrannical Buddhic energy. It was holy and dignified. The figure on this constellation was none other than Qin Wenyin. He was cultivating on the constellation, comprehending the Buddhic Tao. Also, every time he went to a constellation, he would create a time-secret realm, changing the flow of time on the constellation, allowing him to have more time to cultivate. A day in the outside world was equivalent to several years of cultivation for him. A month in the outside world was equivalent to 100 years of cultivation for him. Several months later, he appeared on another constellation. This constellation radiated a towering devil intent, wanting to dominate all lives under the heavens. The Tao might it exuded was also extremely tyrannical, exuding an aura of mastering the devil Tao, wanting everyone in the world to submit to it. Qin Wenyin cultivated on this constellation for hundreds of years, but only a few months had passed in the outside world. After that, he continued to head to other constellations. For example, the Sealing constellation, the Time constellation, and the Spatial constellation. On many of the constellations, Qin Wenyin created Time's secret realms. His shadow could be seen on all of them. He could absorb astral energy from the constellations and could condense any astral soul he wanted. Hence, he tried to comprehend all sorts of Taos, wanting to comprehend an unparalleled Tao. If not, in the future when the War of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms breaks out, he wouldn't have any advantage against the God Kings who returned and Che Ho who controlled the Tao of Chaos. Not only Qin Wenyin was working hard, everyone in the Heaven Vault was madly cultivating as well. Everyone felt immense pressure. They needed to grow stronger to deal with the changes in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. They mustn't let all the pressure land on Qin Wenyin when the time comes. Time slowly flowed by. Another 3 years passed in the outside world. 3 years to the outside world was truly too short. It was merely the blink of an eye. The miraculous scene in the Western world was still there. Everyone in the universe region was focused on the Buddhic path. In the airspace above the Pure Land of Bliss, numerous ancient Buddhas manifested and grew more and more corporeal, transforming into true Buddhas. The people of the world became even more pious and focused on pursuing the Tao. What was even more miraculous was that the countless ancient Buddhas in the Pure Land of Bliss were all chanting Buddhic chants. That direction was none other than the Western Paradise. A miraculous scene appeared in the Western world. The 10,000 Buddhas were all paying homage to the sect. The Western Paradise became even more resplendent compared to the past. A supreme body of the Buddha sovereign appeared in the sky. This body of the Buddha sovereign soared up into the 9 heavens, like he had truly grown beyond the 9 heavenly layers. It was no longer possible to see how tall he was. Everyone in the world said that the Buddha sovereign wanted to compete with the heavens. He wanted to be equal to the heavens and even surpass the 9 heavenly layers. Today, the golden light radiating from the body of the Buddha sovereign illuminated the entire Western world. His fingers that were formed from a special law seal moved. After that, The palm of the Buddha sovereign slowly moved as rumbling sounds rang out. At this moment, in the boundless Western world, countless people inclined their heads and stared in that direction. The Buddha sovereign that was born in the Western paradise seemed to have a life of its own. He sat cross-legged and floated up. Beneath him was a gigantic golden lotus throne. The golden body of the Buddha sovereign had a smile on it, a smile that could deliver all lives from suffering, gentle and benevolent. The lotus throne floated up, the body of the Buddha sovereign moved as well. The Buddha sovereigns of the Western paradise, the sacred Buddhas, as well as countless cultivators from the Buddhist sects, all of them circled around the Buddha sovereign, chanting Buddhic chants as they moved forward. A wave of Buddhic chants rang out, enveloping the Western world. The hearts of everyone trembled. They all stood up and chanted Buddhic chants as they followed the giant Buddha sovereign, moving towards the east. His movements weren't fast nor slow. He led the Buddhist cultivators of the Western world forward. It was impossible for him to be fast even if he wanted to be, but he wasn't slow either. Although he seemed to be moving bit by bit, because his body was too gigantic, to the extent that even the heavens couldn't restrict him, every time he moved, ordinary people would need to traverse a very long distance. The Buddha sovereign of the Western paradise was heading to the east, wanting to deliver all lives from suffering. This news instantly swept through the supreme ancient immortal realms, causing the entire world to tremble. The changes in the Western world were long known to everyone. The devotion of the Buddhists in that world was terrifying. That was a kind of fanaticism, abandoning everything else, only having pious faith in the Buddha. Hence, the scene of 10,000 Buddhas paying homage to the sect was born. A supreme Buddha body appeared in the Western paradise, soaring up to the 9 heavenly layers. Right now, the Buddha sovereign of the Western paradise was heading to the east. How could the world not be shaken? In Yu Chunkhong's palace of darkness, he stood on the roof of his palace and stared towards the west as a smile appeared on his face. Is that old monk finally going to act? This time around, he no longer stood in the dark like before. He was personally acting because everyone knew that the opponent he was going to face might be even stronger compared to the ancient azure mystic of the past. Naturally, his ambition this time around was even greater compared to the ancient era. He wanted to purify all lives, causing the supreme ancient immortal realms to return to the path of Buddha. In the lower world, in ancient azure mystic, the crazy old freak stood in the air and stared in the direction of the supreme ancient immortal realms. What should have come has finally come. He still returned after all. This time around he was much stronger compared to the past, and also much more dangerous. Turning his head, he glanced in the direction of ancient azure mystic. The entire ancient battlefield in ancient azure mystic was trembling. In the air, a supreme silhouette manifested. If Qin Wenyan was here, he would definitely be able to recognize who this silhouette was. Once, when they came to the ancient battlefield, they once saw a magnificent statue of the imperishable Heaven Lord. This silhouette was none other than the imperishable Heaven Lord. The undying scripture was for the sake of undying. The death scripture could allow the dead to return. Everything sealed in this ancient battlefield could allow the death scripture to unleash its full potential. There's not much time left. I hope you can completely unseal her power. The eyes of the crazy old freak pierced through space and landed on a beautiful figure. His turbid eyes were now sharper than ever before. At the same time, there was also a hint of gentleness in them. That beautiful figure was his hope. The Heaven Vault naturally knew about what happened in the Western paradise. After this news was transmitted to Qin Wenyan, he no longer had any distractions in his heart. He entered closed-door seclusion again, not caring about external matters. Unless the ancient Buddha appeared in the boundless sea, he wouldn't exit his seclusion. Qin Wenyan's attitude also encouraged the others in the Heaven Vault. They no longer panicked and chose to cultivate quietly, trying to grow stronger before the Western paradise arrived. They all understood that this time around, the Western paradise's ancient Buddha came here for their Heaven Vault. In truth, they only guessed half of it correctly. The Western paradise Buddha's sovereign did indeed come here for the Heaven Vault, but he didn't come here solely for the Heaven Vault. One day, When that ancient Buddha stepped out of the Western Paradise's territory and came to the other regions, countless people felt their hearts trembling when they saw this majestic scene. They saw the Buddha cultivators of an entire world descending. Who in the world would be able to block them? In truth, they didn't even bother to block them. The sound of Buddhic chants rang out through the heavens and earth, enveloping boundless regions. Many people only felt their souls trembling violently. At this instant, all the distracting thoughts in their hearts were cast aside. They only felt that all their efforts in cultivating in the past were all for naught. For those who lusted after women, they only felt that women were nothing but skeletons. What was the point? For those who lusted after power, they discovered that power was nothing more than a momentary pleasure. Although their subordinates appeared respectful on the surface, they wanted nothing more than to replace them and kill them. What was the point of such control? Was it to eliminate everyone? Why not just let it go? For those who longed for their families, they discovered that all their efforts were for naught. Their wives and children didn't feel grateful to them and would even curse at them. Their children weren't filial and would often rebel. All their efforts were for naught. What was the meaning of life? There were also those who had virtuous wives and filial children. They felt that they had been living for the sake of others in this life, yet they didn't truly live according to their own desires. In the end, wouldn't all their efforts be for naught? This Buddhic chants were like the true truth of the great Tao. It might be able to dispel their doubts. They let go of everything and joined in as well. When they learned to chant the Buddhic chants, they only felt that their hearts were empty and there were no more distracting thoughts. The Western world didn't head east for war. Rather, they wanted to enlighten the masses. Under the Buddhic chants, ordinary people had no way to resist at all. They were directly enlightened and joined in. How strong was the will of an entire world chanting Buddhic chants? How terrifying was their will? They simply didn't dare to imagine. Even for Wu Xiu, who had an extremely high cultivation base, he was doubting himself. Many of them gradually fell and became a part of the chanting. There were also some who felt that something was wrong. This was a lie to them. They fled for their lives, sealing their six senses, no longer daring to listen as they frenziedly fled from this place. The Western world didn't want to fight, but they still wanted to unite the world. Everywhere they passed by, the people of the world would cultivate Buddhists and no one would resist. After several more years, they finally entered the heaven region. During these years, the entire supreme ancient immortal realms was in a state of upheaval. The people of the world all avoided the Buddhist army of the Western world. They all knew how terrifying they were. The path they took was completely empty, no one dared to stay behind. Everywhere the Western world passed by, golden light would shine as a holy aura enveloped the world. However, other than them, there was no one else. This bizarre situation continued. Chapter 2011. They were about to arrive at the Western Paradise. It was impossible to say that they didn't care at all. During these years, everyone in the supreme ancient immortal realms was discussing about the Western world's army. Everywhere they passed by, the people of the world would all be enlightened. No one could stop them. That was an army from the Western world. No one would have imagined that the Western world would have such a powerful arm. They wanted to unify the supreme ancient immortal realms and reign supreme over the 9 heavenly layers. It was said that everywhere the Buddhas of the Western world went, the Buddhic chants would cause Wu Xiu to not dare to resist. Wu Xiu's heart would be filled with Buddhic chants, becoming as devout as true Buddhists. What heaven-defying might was this? It was simply unbelievable. Who could stop them? And now, the Western world was heading towards the Heaven Vault. Clearly, the Heaven Vault was the Western Paradise's ultimate goal. They wanted to take control of the Heaven Vault and make everyone in the world submit. From now on, there would only be a single orthodox power in the supreme ancient immortal realms, and that was the Buddhist sect of the Western Paradise. From now on, the Western Paradise would unify the world. Every step the Western world took would affect the hearts of everyone in the world. Everyone understood that this concerned the future of the supreme ancient immortal realms. Before this, Many people felt that the Heaven Vault had a high chance of victory and could become the hegemon of the supreme ancient immortal realms in the future. But when the God King of the Western world returned and led the army of the universe region to the east, they discovered that they were wrong. After countless years of silence, the God King of the Western world returned. Even before he fought, he already caused the supreme ancient immortal realms to tremble. The Western world has already entered the territory of the Heaven region. The Western world arrived at a location 10,000 miles away from Boundless City and was currently advancing towards it. The Western world arrived at the border of Boundless City and was advancing towards the Boundless Sea. News after news circulated into the Heaven Vault at different times. The hearts of the people in the Qin Heavenly Divine sect trembled. Qin Wenyan finally exited seclusion. In the floating hall he stayed in, everyone gathered together. His family and friends were all here. Many familiar faces could be seen. Clearly, they all knew what they would face soon. Father, mother. Qin Wenyan called out to Qin Yuanfeng and Luoshan Qianxue. Qin Yuanfeng's expression was calm, but Luoshan Qianxue's beautiful eyes flickered with worry. Qin Kursin stood behind them, her gaze was filled with determination. Wen Ian, the Western Paradise's momentum is extremely fierce. Yu Changkong and Che Ho might take advantage of the situation and appear together. Luo Shenchuan spoke. The 5 demon sovereigns of the Demon God Mountain stood beside him. Right now, their auras were even more extraordinary compared to the past. In fact, right now, the Demon God Mountain no longer only had 5 demon sovereigns. Behind them, there were still several other demon gods that rose up during these years. Then let's fight and keep them here. Jun Mingchen's voice was ice-cold as his battle intent surged. After he was defeated by Che Ho, he went into closed-door seclusion and underwent another transformation during these years. He was even stronger than before. I will devour them. Little Rascal roared in a low voice. He had never seen his parents before since he was born. So it turned out that this was all thanks to the God King of the Western sect. Fight. Chi Yu's battle-intent sword. Behind him, the experts from the Battle Saint tribe all radiated a fearsome battle intent. There were many heavenly deities among them. At the side, the Southern Phoenix Matriarch, the Dark North Immortal Emperor, Changqing the Great, GD, Bai Qing and the others all brought their subordinates with them. Clearly, they were long prepared for the upcoming battle. Qin Wenyan stared at the familiar faces before him. He had no way to predict what the ending of this battle would be. However, he could only do his best to protect this big family of his. In this battle, there might be people who might die. Qin Wenyan stared at everyone, his voice was heavy. He didn't want to lower their morale, he was just stating the truth. The eyes of everyone twitched. Qi Yu laughed. I have followed the Saint Lord for so many years, from the immortal Emperor realm to where I am today. Even if I die in battle, it's still an honor. I have no regrets. Nanfeng Yaoyue smiled. She was originally incomparably beautiful and exuded boundless magnificence. This smile of hers was even more breathtaking. She calmly spoke. Wenin, there's no need to say anything more about the relationship between us. Although the Namhuang clan is mine, it is also yours. If I was younger and from the same generation as you, I might have pursued you. Once you have given so much to my Namhuang clan. Today, the Namhuang clan shall fight for the sake of the Heaven Vault, for the sake of our future. Yao Yue, your magnificence is unparalleled. If you pursue me, I will definitely not be able to resist your charm. Qin Wenin laughed carefreely after he heard that. There was no need to say anything more about the relationship between him and the Namhuang clan. If I die in battle, Wenin, you have to help me take good care of Yu Huang. The Dark North Immortal Emperor spoke, glaring at Qin Wenin. Up until today, this fellow still hasn't given Yu Huang a status. Who in the Heaven Vault didn't know about Princess Kitamura's feelings for Qin Wenin? Qin Wentian solemnly nodded. For us fellows from Azure Mystic, we actually have a chance to participate in the battle for the Supreme Ancient King Conferral Battle. We should feel honored. Changqing the Great laughed, feeling extremely carefree. My Demon God Mountain will fight for our future. If we win, from now onwards, the Demon God Mountain will be the royal clan of the supreme ancient immortal realms. Even if all of us old fellows die in battle, it's the same. The heaven-devouring demon sovereign spoke to Qin Wenyin. Senior, don't worry. If I become the king of the supreme ancient immortal realms, the Demon God Mountain will be the royal clan of the supreme ancient immortal realms. Qin Wenyin nodded. The demon sovereigns of the Demon God Mountain all had ruthless looks on their faces. If they won this battle, they would become the royal clan of the supreme ancient immortal realms. This would be different from the peak powers of the desolate region in the past. The Demon God Mountain would become the royal clan of the supreme ancient immortal realms for generations to come, the core of the Heaven Vault. They still trusted Qin Wentian's character. What a good fight for our future. Wenyan, after this battle between our Qingkuan sect and the Nine Heavens Mystical Palace, can we forget about everything that happened in the past? The Qingkuan sect leader spoke. Naturally, if we win this battle, no matter if everyone lives or dies, the people here, the powers and clans here, will all be part of the royal clan of the supreme ancient immortal realms. We will rule the supreme ancient immortal realms together. I don't care about being part of the royal clan of the supreme ancient immortal realms. I only want Wendy and Gij's safety. If something happens to you, even if we win this battle, many people here will die. Bai Qing's beautiful eyes stared at Qin Wenyan. She didn't ask for his safety. As long as he was safe, she would be fine. Silly lass. Qin Wenyan stretched his hand out and stroked Bai Qing's hair. In his life, he owed many people. Bai Qing was undoubtedly one of the people he owed the most. Qing, Qingqing, Yi Qianyu and the others quietly stood beside Qin Wenyan, not saying anything. Qin Wenyan didn't wish for them to participate in the battle, but how could they not participate? For this battle, they swore that they would follow him to the end. Purgatory and Jialan Chuyue stood behind Qin Wenyan, silently watching everything. Qin Wenyan glanced behind him. His foster father Qin Chuan, Yi Qingyun, his elder sister Qin Yao, Luo Huan, as well as many of his loved ones. All of these familiar faces were staring at him with nervousness in their eyes. Everyone knew what Qin Wenyan would face in this battle. Although he was already so powerful now, no one dared to say that they would definitely win this battle. Their opponents were too terrifying. Back then in the battle against Azure Mystic, how tragic was that? Even Wentian survived that battle. For this battle, Wenyan is already so powerful, why would he fear this battle? At this moment, Bai Wuya spoke. He thought back to the tragic battle against the Evergreen Kingdom in Azure Mystic back then. He then spoke in a clear voice. Back then in Azure Mystic, there were many great battles. Azure Mystic was conferred the title of king, possessing the Heaven Empyrean Palace and was worshipped by everyone in the world. Today, in the Battle of the Heaven Vault, he shall be conferred the title of King of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. Senior brother Bai is right. For this battle, who in the world can contend against him? The experts here all felt their blood boiling. Let's move out. Qin Wenyan turned and walked towards the exit of the Heaven Vault. The experts here followed behind him, all of them exuding an unyielding aura. Many people stared at Qin Wentian's back view. The wind was howling, it felt like he would never return. The great river flows east, the waves are all gone. Geniuses of the past were all laughing and chatting. Why would they fear a battle? Why would they regret death? The people of Boundless City all left, becoming an empty city. They gathered at the Boundless Sea region and circled around it, waiting for the arrival of the Western world. No one dared to obstruct the path of the Western world. They had all heard of the consequences, they would be purified directly. From a city away, the people of the Boundless Sea region could already see the gigantic Buddha statue that towered up into the clouds. It was too shocking, they couldn't see the head of the Buddha statue, they could only see the body. The Buddhic chants drifted over from a great distance. Many experts sealed their six senses, not allowing themselves to be affected by the Buddhic chants. As for those with weaker cultivation bases, they have long moved away from Boundless City. They didn't dare to stay behind. For such a world-shaking battle, the area of influence would be unimaginable. If they stayed behind, they might lose their lives at any moment. It was too dangerous. Naturally, there were also people who couldn't bear to leave. They wanted to witness this historical battle. Such a world-shaking battle was extremely rare. There were no records of it in the history of the supreme ancient immortal realms. Maybe the world-ending battle in Azure Mystic back then could be compared to this. If this battle determined the future hegemon of the supreme ancient immortal realms, the influence it would have on the future would be even greater compared to the world-ending battle. This was a battle that was destined to be recorded in history. Who wouldn't want to personally witness it? For those with some strength, they couldn't bear to leave. Even if their lives were in danger, they still wanted to witness this battle. However, at this moment, the Buddhic chants gradually turned heavy, no longer resounding through the heavens and earth. It was as though the chants were intentionally retracting. However, the golden holy light didn't fade away at all. It enveloped the entire sky and unceasingly flowed over. The boundlessly vast city now seemed so tiny and inconsequential, covered by the golden Buddhic light. Finally, the Western world's army occupied Boundless City. The Buddhas from the Western paradise arrived at the Boundless Sea coast. They halted and stared in the direction of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. This place was the destination of their trip. Just like what the people of the world have guessed, the Western world wanted to take over the Heaven Vault first. In another direction, Yu Changkong and the others arrived. They led many hegemonic characters from the hegemonic powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms, as well as heavenly deities. They arrived at the Boundless Sea coast and joined forces with the Western world. Staring at the Heaven Vault from afar, a cold smile could be seen in Yu Changkong's eyes. This day has finally arrived. He has been waiting for this day for a very long time. In the air, a beam of light descended from the sky. It was extremely sharp, slicing apart the Boundless Sea coast as a golden path appeared. From the Boundless Sea coast, one could see the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. This figure was none other than Che Ho. He stood before the golden path. His gaze was terrifying to the extreme as he stared ahead. Just like what many people in the Heaven Vault have guessed, experts from the various powers have gathered here. It wasn't just the Western world. The strongest powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms have all gathered at the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. Chapter 2012. Right now, the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect was already connected to the Boundless Sea coast. Qin went in and the others stood within the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. They could clearly see the experts who arrived. The Buddhist sect of the Western world, the hegemonic powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms led by Yu Changkong, as well as Che Ho. An aura that could suppress the heavens and earth gushed over. This stretch of the Boundless Sea region seemed to have no way to withstand it. They were too powerful. Such a lineup could topple everything. From the Western world, a Buddhist cultivator stepped out. This was a Buddha sovereign. He stood beside the gigantic Buddha and stared in the direction of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. He pressed his palms together. Sect leader Qin, how have you been? We aren't good friends, there's no need to be so polite. Qin Wendian calmly replied. In fact, he couldn't even be bothered to feign civility. Since this is the case, I'll get straight to the point. That Buddha sovereign nodded. Sect leader Qin monopolized the Heaven Vault and used it to threaten the hegemonic powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms. You did whatever you wanted, committing evil in the world. My Buddha is merciful and came from the West, wanting to resolve the crisis of the supreme ancient immortal realms. If sect leader Qin has good intentions in your heart, please put down your butcher's knife and convert to Buddhism. The Buddha voice of this Buddha sovereign rang out through the heavens and earth. Golden light radiated forth, appearing incomparably holy. However, when the people of the Heaven Vault heard this, they wanted nothing more than to curse out loud. Only today did I know that the most shameless person in the world is actually from the Western world. What sort of cultivation realm is this? Only then would they be able to say such shameless words. Luo Shenchuan coldly spoke. The Western world traveled to the east, causing the people of the world to suffer calamities, becoming puppets of the Western world. Such actions are no different from Yu Changkong. The evil in the world is nothing more than this. They have already joined forces with Yu Changkong, and it wasn't just this time. They are merely an evil sect wearing the guise of a Buddhist sect, yet they keep saying that they are doing good. How disgusting. Even the heaven-devouring demon sovereign couldn't bear to see the actions of the Buddhas. Along the way, the actions of the Western world have long been known to the Heaven Vault. They actually abducted the people of the world. Right now, with a single glance, the entire city was filled with the Buddha world's army. It was unknown how many people were abducted to attack the Heaven Vault. The people of the world are fools. I didn't expect that everyone would still be like this even after cultivating to such a realm. My Buddhist sect traveled to the east and never killed a single person or beast. Those who were willing to convert to Buddhism were all influenced by the sound of Buddha. That's why they put down everything and entered the path of Buddhism. This is the will of the world, the trend of the times. That Buddhist powerhouse replied calmly. His skin was so thick that it made people's hair stand on end. Roar. Little rascal transformed into a gigantic beast and bared his fangs. He wanted nothing more than to rush over and devour these shameless Buddhist cultivators. Coercing the people of the world and using the Buddhist Tao to control the minds of others, is this the goodness of the Buddhist sect? Qin Wenyin laughed sarcastically. The goodness of the Western world was completely contrary to the true goodness of Buddhism. The Tao of the Buddhist sect doesn't control the hearts of people. It only teaches people to let go of evil thoughts, to let go of their evil hearts, to covet power and authority, to let go of their authority. This is the great Tao of heaven and earth. That Buddhist Lord spoke calmly from the bottom of his heart. It was like this was what they believed from the start. Most probably, this was the highest realm of hypocrisy. Qin Wenyin and the others were thinking, did these people really not know if they were doing good or evil, or were they pretending not to know? But I heard that you guys caused countless families and families to be torn apart. All of them put down their morals and joined you, forgetting themselves, forgetting their loved ones. Is this the great Tao of your Western world? Since they can let go, it means that there's Buddha in their hearts. This is searching for their true selves. How can there be any destruction? Right now, they are all very peaceful, happier than before. The Buddhist Lord calmly spoke. Sect leader Qin, today, my Buddhist sect came here not to discuss the Tao with you. The Heaven Vault is a weapon of the supreme ancient immortal realms. It can control the fate of the supreme ancient immortal realms. My Western world is willing to bring everyone in the world to control this weapon. If sect leader Qin truly cares about the world, I hope that you won't resist us. Fuck your mother's bullshit. Some disciples of the Qin Heavenly Divine sect were so angered by the shamelessness of this Buddhist lord that their hearts wavered. They involuntarily cursed out loud. It was simply hard to imagine that there would be such shameless people in the world. Although Yu Changkong was evil, he was evil. Everyone in the world knew that he would never say that he was good. But how shameless were these bald donkeys? Controlling everyone in the world was like purifying them. Wanting to seize the Heaven Vault meant that they were helping everyone in the world to control it. This bunch of bald donkeys. Their faces are forged with gold. Even great Tao innate techniques can't break through their skin. Many people couldn't endure this. Qin Wenyin was also speechless. The heavenly deities around him were all angered to the point where their auras fluctuated. They were the controllers of the Heaven Vault, yet these bald donkeys actually had the face to say that if they cared about the world, they shouldn't resist? It was like the Heaven Vault originally belonged to the Buddhist sect. If you resisted, it would be wrong of you. You would be committing evil, and would be committing the sin of killing. On the other hand, the Western world came here to seize the Heaven Vault, helping everyone in the world to control it. This was the greatest kindness of the world. This was the logic of the heavenly Tao. Let me ask, other than the Western world, who else could speak of plundering in such a magnanimous manner? If I rob you, it's good. If you resist, it's evil. You should just surrender. If the Western world was like Yu Changkong, it was one thing. They could endure it. But when they spoke, they seemed incomparably holy, like they were wearing the robes of a saint. This was truly unbearable. If you want to do evil, just do it. Why do you still want to wear the robes of a saint? This was simply acting on behalf of the heavens. Even Yu Changkong, who was at the side, couldn't help but laugh. These bald donkeys were still as shameless as ever. He laughed. The Western world cares about the world. It's a great kindness. This is indeed the trend of the times. Qin Wenyan, if you know your own limitations, you should submit to them. The reverend of the Buddhist sect is merciful and might spare your life. When Yu Changkong said this, even he himself was laughing. Qin Wenyan didn't know what he meant. As for Che Ho, he still had no expression on his face. He was as cold as ever. Although he had gained sentience and his intelligence wasn't inferior to humans, his true form was ultimately a divine weapon formed from seizing the good fortune of the heavens and earth. He didn't have such complicated emotions. If the Western world is so kind, why would they join forces with the evil cultivator Yu Changkong? Qin Wendian asked. There's no one in the world who can't be enlightened. Benefactor Yu has gone astray, but he still has a heart of kindness and is willing to join forces with us to take down the heaven vault. This is kindness. In the future, our Buddhist sect will guide Benefactor Yu to do good. That Buddha Lord calmly spoke. Qin Wendian started. After that, he nodded his head and was finally speechless. So it turned out that Yu Changkong joined forces with them to attack the heaven vault because he wanted to do good. This evil cultivator who committed heinous crimes had a chance to do good. As for the people in charge of the heaven vault, they were the greatest evildoers. Qin Wendian understood that he couldn't win against the Buddha Lord. You would never know where the limits of the other party were. Such shamelessness was truly unprecedented. Yu Changkong also had a strange expression on his face. A faint smile appeared on his face, appearing somewhat evil, but he still spoke. Reverend's words are right. As expected of an esteemed monk. Our Buddhist sect is still willing to give sect leader Qin a chance to do good. If sect leader Qin doesn't agree, for the sake of the world, our Buddhist sect can only act. That Buddha Lord spoke. Reverend, are you not afraid of killing? Someone asked. If I don't enter hell, who would? That ancient Buddha Lord pressed his palms together and solemnly spoke. Qin Wenyan nodded. My heart is also concerned about the world. I want to do good and restore order to the world. My kindness is to make the Western paradise disappear from the supreme ancient immortal realms forever. At the end of his words, Qin Wenyan's voice was extremely cold. From his point of view, the evil of the Western paradise wasn't inferior to Yu Changkong's evil at all. They used doing good as a lie, controlling the faith of everyone in the world, wanting people to abandon everything and cultivate the Buddhist Tao. This was a true evil. Upon hearing Qin Wenyan's words, the Buddhist cultivators all pressed their palms together. That gigantic golden Buddha Lord radiated Buddhic light that illuminated the entire space. At this instant, countless Buddhist cultivators in the city all pressed their palms together and chanted Buddhic hymns. A moment later, boundless Buddhic light flashed, transforming into countless Sanskrit runes. Many heavenly deities beside Yu Changkong frowned. They sealed their sense of hearing and stabilized their hearts, not allowing the Buddhic hymns to harm them. Many people from the Qin Heavenly Divine sect instantly lost control of their wills. Very soon, some of them also pressed their palms together. Upon seeing this scene, Qin Wenyan and the others frowned. The Western world descended with the faith of everyone. For those below the heavenly deity realm, they basically had no way to resist the Buddhic hymns. Qin Wenyan roared. His voice was like a hammer smashing into the hearts of everyone, jolting them awake. After that, he commanded, retreat into the heaven vault. For disciples below the heavenly deity realm, if they joined the battle, they would die for sure. They could only become cannon fodder. The expressions of everyone turned unsightly. Although they wanted nothing more than to fight alongside their sect leader and kill these shameless bald donkeys, the Buddhic hymns were even more terrifying compared to devil hymns. They truly had no way to resist them and could only retreat into the heaven vault. Bizazi, a golden bolt of lightning arced through the air, shooting towards the heaven vault. It was none other than the human form divine weapon Che Ho. Qin Yuanfeng coldly snorted. He stretched his hand out and blasted out in the air. In an instant, the power of the 6 paths manifested in the air, transforming into 6 terrifying vortexes. Che-Ho's golden fist light blasted out. It was like the Tao of chaos, manifesting a myriad of divine weapons and all sorts of Tao arts, clashing against the power of the 6 paths. In an instant, terrifying cracks of darkness tore through the space, tearing apart the boundless sea below as terrifying fissures appeared on the ground, extending in all directions. In addition, the force of the collision between the two of them didn't stop. The force of the 6 paths transformed into the true light of the 6 paths. The Tao of chaos was still howling madly, but Che-Ho ultimately had no way to advance. Just a casual attack from Che-Ho was enough to shake the hearts of everyone. If the two of them fought in this space, they could easily destroy the entire boundless sea region, razing it to flat ground. Qin Yuan Feng. Che-Ho stared at the imposing figure in the distance. He didn't expect that after he seized the fortune of heaven and earth and comprehended the grand Tao of chaos, there would actually be 2 people in the Qin heavenly divine sect who could stand equally against him. Was this what this era was like? Back then, when the 8 ancient god kings gathered together, it should be like this too, right? But now, this glorious era would end in this battle. There would only be one person who would unify this era. Chapter 2013. Brother Che-Ho. At this moment, someone called out. This caused Che-Ho to turn his head and look at the person who spoke. It was none other than Yu Changkong. Yu Changkong had a faint smile on his face. Brother Che-Ho, there's no need to be anxious. The Buddhas of the Western Paradise have descended, doing good deeds in the world, wanting to purify the masses. Under the power of the Buddhist path, all resistance will be purified. We only need to stand at the side and provide support. What sort of character was Yu Changkong? He was someone who gathered all the evil arts in the world and also had the power of 2 god kings. His cultivation base was extremely strong, but his heart was evil. His goal wasn't simply to destroy the heaven vault, he also wanted to dominate the supreme ancient immortal realms and become the king of the supreme ancient immortal realms. However, the commotion caused by the Western world not only caused the entire supreme ancient immortal realms to tremble, it also caused his heart to tremble. This was no longer the power of the God King of the Western Paradise alone. It was the power of all the Buddhas. Once they unleashed their full power, the might they could unleash would be so strong that even the ancient God Kings of the past wouldn't be able to survive. After all, the Western Paradise's God King alone was a God King character. Now that he returned, he became even stronger, let alone when the power of all the Buddhas gathered together. In such a situation, Yu Changkong naturally wouldn't take the initiative to act. If both sides ended up heavily injured, who else would be able to stop the Western Paradise? At such a time, it was naturally best to let the Western Paradise fight. Che-Ho's eyes flashed, he instantly understood Yu Changkong's meaning. Although the battle intent in his heart was extremely intense and he wanted to transform into a supreme divine weapon to destroy the heaven vault, he ultimately endured it. He transformed into a beam of golden light and retreated, giving the battlefield to the Buddhas of the Western world. That incomparably gigantic ancient Buddha stepped out. Countless Buddha silhouettes appeared around him. These Buddha silhouettes seemed to be formed from the power of all living beings. Along with the rumbling sounds of Sanskrit, a thunderous rumbling sound rang out in the air. That invisible giant Buddha slammed his palm downwards. In an instant, the entire sky was covered. In the world, only the 5-fingered palm remained, wanting to crush the sky. No one would be able to escape from the envelopment of this palm. The boundless sea and the Qin heavenly divine sect were all enveloped by it. Qin Wendian inclined his head. At this moment, not only did they feel that their bodies were being suppressed, even their souls were being suppressed, as though they were about to face a calamity. In their minds, the unparalleled Buddhas were pressing down on them, making them appear so tiny and insignificant. They couldn't even withstand a single strike and would be easily destroyed. No! Many people let out roars of terror. They were the experts who were spectating the battle in the surroundings of the boundless sea region. When they saw the gigantic palm imprint that blotted out the sky, They could feel the pressure from the depths of their souls. They felt that doomsday had arrived. Given their cultivation bases, it was impossible for them to evade this attack. They would die without a doubt. Not only them, everyone in this boundless space would be annihilated. Qin Wentian's gaze turned extremely terrifying, his expression was cold. A terrifying spatial storm enveloped them as time flowed by. His body instantly vanished from his original location, directly entering the heaven vault. At the same time, the spatial storm swept up the spectators in the surroundings as well. In that instant, they felt themselves shuttling through a spatial vortex. It was unknown how far away they were. When they regained their senses, they only saw the gigantic palm imprint slamming down on them. An incomparably vast space was completely engulfed by the palm imprint. Whew! They let out a long sigh, feeling that they had just passed through the gates of hell. When they saw the boundless space being engulfed by the palm imprint, their hearts twitched. They initially wanted to witness this battle between the hegemonic kings of the supreme ancient immortal realms. However, just a single strike almost caused them to be buried. Many thanks. Many people bowed in the direction of the heaven vault. They knew that it was Qin Wenyin who saved their lives. As for those ancient Buddhas who did good deeds, they basically didn't care about them at all. In the eyes of the Buddhas of the Western paradise, they were like ants, completely insignificant and could be killed with a single slap. Would the Buddhas of the Western paradise really do good deeds? I pray. I will definitely support the heaven vault and the hegemonic kings of the supreme ancient immortal realms. Someone spoke. If the Western paradise or Yuchangkong is conferred the hegemonic kings, it would be a calamity for the supreme ancient immortal realms. I also hope that the heaven vault can be conferred the hegemonic kings. For this battle, the heaven vault has to win no matter what. Those people who were saved by Qin Wenyin were all praying for Qin Wenyin. As for the method Qin Wenyin used to save them, it had already surpassed the scope of their understanding. However, since Qin Wentian's strength was already close to the God King level, it wasn't strange for him to have any heaven-defying methods. The Qin Heavenly Divine Sect was completely destroyed by this strike. The boundless sea region appeared once again, but this time, it was even deeper. This sea region transformed into a deep abyss. As for Qin Wenyin and the others, they had already vanished, entering the heaven vault. Intense rumbling sounds rang out. A golden finger appeared at the location where the heaven vault was. This finger was incomparably gigantic, like the sharpest sword in the world. It pierced into the closed space, causing a crack to appear. The crack expanded unceasingly before exploding apart. This was none other than the entrance to the heaven vault. It was forcefully opened. Once, Qin Wenyin had the geographical advantage of the heaven vault. If he didn't open the heaven vault, no one would be able to enter. But now, it was no longer possible. With the return of the Western God Kings, Yuchangkong and Che Ho's rebirth, the heaven vault was no longer able to obstruct them. Qin Wenyin was very clear about this point. After all, the heaven vault was created by an ancient God King. Right now, an ancient God King was right in front of them. How could they not be able to break through a world created by a God King? The Buddha realm's army moved towards the entrance of the heaven vault. At this moment, a pair of gigantic palms appeared, unceasingly tearing the entrance apart. However, at the instant they entered the heaven vault, a supreme sword intent manifested, shattering everything. The spatial storm transformed into millions upon millions of strands of sword chi that rained down, wanting to annihilate all existences. Careful! A heavy voice rang out. That incomparably gigantic ancient Buddha used its gigantic body to block the entrance of the heaven vault. Countless Buddha palms revolved around him, and for a period of time, millions of palm imprints appeared before him, extending into the heaven vault, opening a path for the Buddha realm's army. The gigantic Buddha palm first entered the heaven vault. After that, his head slammed into it. The cracks in the heaven vault grew wider and wider. That incomparably gigantic body continued to extend into the heaven vault as he continued chanting, transforming into boundless might. Qin Wenyin and the others retreated into the heaven vault. They stood in the starry space and stared at the gigantic ancient Buddha head rising higher and higher until it was parallel to them. Their silhouettes flashed as they continued flying up into the air. The head also grew taller and taller, like it wanted to grow into the 9 heavenly layers. Finally, the gigantic ancient Buddha stopped growing. The Buddha realm's army behind him descended, surrounding him. Qin Wenyin and the others stood in the starry space and stared at the terrifying gigantic Buddha as their hearts trembled. This Buddha was too large. It was born from the faith of all living beings in the Western world. Could this Buddha be the God King of the Western world? Or maybe it was just a Buddha statue that was controlled by the God King of the Western world. Within the heaven vault, the starry space was boundless. No matter how large the Buddha statue was, it wouldn't be able to occupy the entire starry space. It only appeared incomparably gigantic before the experts of the heaven vault. The starry space within the heaven vault was more suitable for combat. If not, in the outside world, if they fought against this giant Buddha statue, they wouldn't even have a place to evade. Also, it was unknown how many people would die. Buddhic chants rang out, echoing through the starry space. The Buddha realm's army pressed their palms together and started chanting. In an instant, all sorts of Buddhist arts and Taos were gathered in their bodies. The Buddhic chants continuously seeped into the ears of Qin Wenyin and the others. Qin Wenyin and the others wanted to seal their sense of hearing, but they were still unable to block the Buddhic chants. After that, Buddhic light radiated from their bodies. At this moment, Qin Wenyin felt a Buddha statue manifesting in his body. A Buddha root was planted in him. At this moment, everyone felt a Buddha statue in their hearts. The Buddhist Dharma is boundless. Everyone, repent and you will be saved. A voice rang out in the minds of everyone, like the supreme great Tao of heaven and earth. For some of those who have broken through to the heavenly deity realm not long ago, their hearts wavered. At this moment, many scenes appeared in their minds. These scenes were from the moment they were born until now. It was like they were recalling their entire lives. The pain and suffering they had to endure were extremely clear, vivid in their minds. After that, a powerful wave of faith energy descended, expelling everything for them, causing their hearts to be at peace. The Buddhic light radiating from them grew even more resplendent, giving birth to their Buddha natures. It was like they were about to become Buddhas. The obsessions of all lives are transformed into the Tao. Qin Wenyin relied on his powerful will to break free. He stared at the Buddha realm army. Such an ability was similar to the time when he fought against the Karma Buddha back then. However, the power he endured today was even more tyrannical. How terrifying was the Buddha realm army? They gathered the faith of all lives and transformed it into the Tao, entering their hearts and even their souls, influencing them. This was too terrifying. No wonder the Western world wanted to deliver all lives from suffering. The old bald donkey actually became so strong. Is he trying to comprehend the ultimate Tao? Yu Changkong watched this battle from the side of the heaven vault. When he saw the Buddhic light radiating from the heavenly deities around Qin Wenyin, his heart trembled. Although he hoped to take over the heaven vault, he didn't want it to be too simple. If the Western world directly suppressed the heaven vault, it wouldn't be beneficial to him at all. It would be best if both sides suffered heavy injuries. Don't be controlled. Qin Wenyin roared, his voice directly reverberated in the minds of everyone, causing some of them to sober up a little. After that, all of them tried to resist the corrosion of the Buddhic Tao. However, the Brahmic chants continued, like they would never stop. The gigantic Buddha statue spat out Buddhist runes. Each rune seemed to strike the depths of the hearts of everyone. Such Buddhist arts, what difference is there between you and an evil cultivator? Qin Wentian's expression turned cold when he sensed that power. A powerful devil might erupted forth, enveloping the heavenly deities around him, resisting the corrosion of the Buddhic Tao. At this moment, outside the heaven vault, a black bolt of lightning shot over. After that, in the starry space, everything turned dark. Terrifying death clouds enveloped the starry space, transforming into a terrifying death chi. That old fellow finally appeared. Qin Wenyin silently mused. He didn't know how to deal with that gigantic Buddha statue. It was somewhat strenuous for him. Chapter 2014. The figure of the crazy old freak appeared in the dark clouds of death. He was like a true god of death, controlling the life and death of all lives. His eyes were no longer cloudy, but were sharp to the extreme. He stared at the gigantic Buddha before him as his astral soul manifested. The silhouette of the grim reaper appeared, towering and majestic. Its entire body was pitch black, and it was born from the aura of death. Its eyes were filled with inscriptions that were extremely complicated, yet they gave off a feeling of true death. When his eyes turned to the Buddha world army, in an instant, numerous gods who controlled death descended from the sky. At this moment, the countless experts of the Buddha world army all radiated death chi, giving birth to dead spirits that appeared behind them, wanting to devour their lives and souls. Evil and crooked Tao. Buddhic chants shook the heavens and earth. Golden light filled the sky, expelling all the dead spirits. The two powers clashed in the air, and at the same time, boundless Buddhic light landed on the Grim Reaper, enveloping the gigantic Grim Reaper shadow, wanting to purify it. You used the faith of all lives as well as the power of fate to achieve your ambitions. Who is the evil demon exactly? The old freak's expression was cold. These people who were coerced by their faith had already lost their sense of self and became the tools of the Western Paradise's war. They coerced all the cultivators of the Western world, transforming them into a world army. This was the true evil and terror. Evil and crooked Tao, how would you know what faith is? The Buddhist sect will deliver all lives from suffering. In the future, the supreme ancient immortal realms will be unified and the world will naturally be at peace. The hearts of people will be filled with kindness and there will no longer be any evil disciples like you. Buddhic chants shook the heavens and earth. The Buddha world army continued chanting, unceasingly expelling the death chi, causing the dead spirits to be destroyed. The entire starry space seemed to be lit up with Buddhic light. Under that giant Buddha, all lives were insignificant. Seems like this old fellow is still unable to contend against this Buddha. Qin Wendian thought to himself. The deity king of the universe region used the power of all living beings to give birth to a supreme giant Buddha. Even if a true ancient deity king were to appear, he wouldn't be a match for the deity king of the universe region. Although the crazy old man was strong, he wasn't able to protect Azure Mystic in the past. This meant that it was impossible for the crazy old man to surpass the deity king of the universe region. At the very most, his strength was on par with the deity king of the universe region. However, the one who made a move today was the deity king of the past. The eyes of the death god of the crazy old man stared ahead. With a single glance, there was no end to the army of the Buddha realm in the west. He had transformed into an invincible existence. As expected, that bald monk had become even more terrifying. Qin Wendian's silhouette flashed. His eyes reversed the heavens, engulfing the heavens and earth and reversing time. He wanted to shift the Buddha realm army into the space-time that he controlled. However, endless Buddha chants rang out, causing the Buddhas to be unmoved. They couldn't move at all. When the power of the Tao art reached a certain level, the attacks of others would be rendered useless. Ja! A roar rang out, containing the power of Buddhist incantations, pressing down on Qin Wendian's heart. It was like the weight of the heavens was pressing down on him, so heavy that he found it hard to defend against it. His heart felt like it was pressing down on the Buddha lords of the world. The numerous Buddhist constellations in the sky all bore down on his heart, causing him to groan in agony, feeling extremely unbearable. In the next instant, boundless Buddhic light flashed in the 9 heavenly layers. Those constellations that contain the power of the Buddhist path seemed to be projecting down, transforming into giant Buddhas that bore down on everyone, blasting towards the floating palaces in the starry space. At the same time, it also bore down on Qin Wendian and the others. This was a supreme technique that could destroy the world. Qin Wendian's silhouette flashed, shooting out with lightning speed towards one of the floating palaces in the sky. His clan lord was there. If he was destroyed by the giant Buddhas, the consequences would be unimaginably dire. Many experts sped towards different directions. Their expressions were all extremely unsightly to behold. The God King of the universe region had gathered the power of all lives in his body. Was there really no way to break through this? If they couldn't break through the power of the Buddhist army, there was basically no chance of victory for this battle. Qin Wenyin descended in the air, using the supreme Tao of starry space to envelop the floating palaces. With a single glance, the entire floating palaces underwent a spatial shift, moving towards the starry space. Qin Wentian's palm blotted out the sky, directly shattering one of the giant Buddhas that was descending from the sky. Awesome, as expected of someone who has defeated the people of this era multiple times. Yu Changkong stared at Qin Wenyin, who was in the air. However, such power was still insufficient to deal with the bald donkey from the Western world. If they wanted to defeat the bald donkey from the Western world, there was only a single method. They had to sever the connection between the bald donkey and the Buddhist army, not allowing the bald donkey to control the faith of all lives. If not, this bald donkey would be equivalent to the God King of the Nine Heavens, an existence that transcends everything. There was basically no one who could contend against him. Even Yu Changkong himself felt that he wouldn't be able to do so. The heavenly deities from the peak powers around Yu Changkong felt their hearts trembling violently. This was too powerful. That giant Buddha from the Western world was worshipped by 10,000 Buddhas and was basically an invincible existence. Also, there was Qin Wenyin. He wasn't just slightly stronger compared to the past, he had simply undergone a transformation. The young man back then was now one of the existences that stood at the peak of the supreme ancient immortal realms. Qin Wentian's expression was extremely unsightly. He was thinking, how should they deal with such a method? At this moment, in the starry space, a lanky figure clad in green suddenly flew over. His eyes were terrifying, there seemed to be the cycle of reincarnation within them. When he descended from the starry space, the astral light in the sky seemed to be following him. A few constellations in the sky seemed to be following his silhouette. Wherever he went, the astral light would cascade over there. What a powerful faith energy! That figure in the air spoke. He came to the side of Qin Wenyin. Both of them were so handsome and extraordinary. The God King of the universe region controlled the faith of all lives in the Western world, creating a supreme Buddha. Qin Wenyin spoke. The power of faith can control the 8 senses of humans, controlling the will of others. I've cultivated for 2 lifetimes and my current Tao might be able to help you. However, I have no way to resist such a powerful force alone. We need many heavenly deities to join forces. That person spoke. So it turned out that he was none other than Hua Taishu. In truth, he had been cultivating on one of the constellations in the heaven vault for a very long time. He had been in closed-door seclusion for countless years and didn't exit at all. He was comprehending the heavenly Tao, gathering the insights of his 2 lifetimes. Even during the deity-level battle in the heaven vault back then, he was in a state of closed-door seclusion and didn't participate. It was only until today, when an even more terrifying deity-level battle erupted in the heaven vault, that he appeared. What do we need to do? Qin Wenyin asked. The Buddhist path's control over the 8 senses is extremely powerful. Right now, the God King of the Western world has the faith of all lives in his hands. He is able to activate all sorts of supreme Buddhist Tao arts. If we want to prevent the people of the Western world from falling under his control, we need to infuse our will directly into their minds, causing them to wake up. I cultivate samsara and can create a reincarnation heavenly Tao, creating a grand illusion of the reincarnation heavenly Tao, slowly severing the connection between them. However, I need all of you to help me block external interference and also block the Buddha Lord from attacking me. Hua Taishu spoke. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. Hua Taishu also knew about the 8 senses of the Buddhist path and was able to break it. From this, one could tell that his reincarnation heavenly Tao was extremely powerful. However, he still couldn't break it with his own strength. In the supreme ancient immortal realms, there was no one who could do this unless they truly transcended. Chapter 2015. Qin Wendian nodded. He transmitted his voice to his father Qin Yuanfeng and the crazy old freak. After that, from different directions, a few peak characters stepped out at the same time, moving towards the gigantic Buddha statue. If they wanted to defeat this gigantic Buddha statue, they had to first break the connection between it and the experts of the Western world. "Let me send you over." Qin Wendian spoke. Space and time flowed as he and Hua Taishu directly vanished. They actually ignored the laws of space and appeared behind the gigantic Buddha statue. In the air above the experts of the Western world, countless gazes turned to them. After that, they lowered their heads as though they didn't care at all. At this moment, the experts of the Western world could transform into a single entity, disregarding any other experts. A golden lotus flower with 6 petals appeared. The flowers bloomed unceasingly, growing in number. In the blink of an eye, the lotus flower enveloped this entire space, moving towards Qin Wendian and Hua Taishu. Within the lotus flower petals, there seemed to be countless faces, projecting into the depths of Qin Wendian and Hua Taishu's souls. This caused them to feel that the lotus flower was directly growing in their souls, wanting to crush their lives and souls. The Tao arts of the Buddhist path were boundless. Right now, all of them were gathered in Qin Wendian and Hua Taishu. Any Tao art he casually unleashed contained shocking might. It was extremely hard to defend against it. "You go, leave this to me." Qin Wendian spoke. His silhouette flashed as he directly stepped into the lotus flower petals. His body was instantly enveloped within. After that, the lotus flower petals closed as a shrill screech of anger rang out. In the next instant, numerous holes appeared as the lotus flower petals cracked apart. Hua Taishu directly stepped down from the cracks, unleashing the power of his Tao art. At the same time when Qin Wendian and Hua Taishu acted, Qin Yuanfeng and the Grim Reaper also acted. Qin Yuanfeng's aura was boundlessly imposing. He stood in the air, transforming into a true supreme heavenly deity. In the air, 6 beams of light converged onto him. His palms blasted out, blotting out the sun. The 6 beams of light contained enough power to destroy everything in the world. The 6 vortexes enveloped the head of the gigantic Buddha, wanting to devour it completely. The Grim Reaper's eye stared into the eyes of the gigantic Buddha. The shadow of the astral soul behind him radiated the light of the Grim Reaper. Everywhere the light passed by, dead spirits would descend, enveloping the Buddhas. Qin Wendian, Qin Yuanfeng, and the Grim Reaper. The 3 of them were all existences at the peak of the supreme ancient immortal realms. With the 3 of them joining forces, even the giant Buddha was temporarily suppressed. In the battlefield where Qin Wendian was at, the lotus shattered. Qin Wendian turned his gaze towards Hua Taishu only to see a beam of samsara light shining through the starry space, enveloping the people of the Western world below. At this moment, Hua Taishu was incomparably dazzling, like a god of samsara. In fact, from him, Qin Wendian could faintly sense the power of the Buddhist path. It was as though Hua Taishu also cultivated in the Buddhist path. The people of the Western world were enveloped by the Tao. They fell into an illusion of samsara as everything they had experienced in their lives appeared in their minds. Numerous touching scenes appeared, all of them were scenes where they were once touched. The companionship of their loved ones, the sacrifices of their friends, the meticulous nurturing and guidance of their teachers, all of these scenes flashed clearly in their minds. All of these were the complete opposite of what the Buddha sovereign had given them. 2 different types of faith energy clashed in their minds. Hua Taishu's body shone with resplendent light as he spoke in a light voice. "I originally cultivated the Tao of emotionlessness. However, I destroyed all emotions in my life and ultimately, I didn't know what I was seeking in my cultivation. After cultivating for another life, I finally understood that emotionlessness is only for the sake of having emotions. If there's no emotionlessness, no love, no desires, what is a human? I am nothing but a walking corpse, a puppet of the heavenly Tao." His voice seeped into the minds of everyone. In fact, the people of the world could truly sense his emotions as their wills wavered. Many people even woke up from their stupor, no longer holding on to their faith energy. They felt somewhat at a loss. When the figures of the Western world woke up, the eruption of energy from the giant Buddha that was clashing against the Grim Reaper and Qin Yuanfeng seemed to be weakening bit by bit. But even so, it was still incomparably tyrannical. There were several Buddha lords in the Western world who stared at Hua Taishu. One of them pressed his palms together and spoke, "So it's junior brother who has returned. Why didn't you return to the Buddhist Tao? Why are you harming the masses instead?" Junior brother? Everyone felt their hearts trembling when they heard the words of this Buddha lord. All of them felt some disbelief. A Buddha lord from the Western paradise actually referred to Hua Taishu as his junior brother? The eyes of the hegemonic powers beside Yu Changkong flashed. After that, a figure appeared in their minds as their hearts pounded violently. "You guys know about it?" Yu Changkong glanced at the people beside him. The Buddha lords of the Western paradise cultivate different Taos: the Tao of karma, the Tao of reincarnation, the Tao of Paramitha, the Tao of reincarnation. Many years ago, a supremely talented Buddha cultivator appeared in the Western paradise. His attainments in the Buddhist path were extremely deep, and he was proficient in all sorts of Buddhist arts. He was the youngest Buddha lord in the Western paradise, and the Buddhas of the Western paradise once said that in terms of the spirit of the Buddhist path, the people of the Western paradise were all inferior to him. His comprehension ability was shocking, and he comprehended the emotionless samsara Tao, severing all his emotions and cultivating the cycle of reincarnation. With a single glance, he could cause others to sink into the emotionless samsara, unable to extricate themselves. His attainments in the Tao were unfathomably deep. The God Extermination Palace Lord at the side slowly spoke. However, later on, it was rumored that he started to doubt his own cultivation and felt that there was a problem with his cultivation, causing him to be restricted. After that, this supremely talented Buddha Lord started to doubt the Buddhist path. His personality is extremely rebellious, and he would do whatever he wanted to do. He is an emotionless person. Who would be able to restrain him? All the Buddha lords joined forces, wanting to suppress him, but he killed one of them and fled from the Western paradise himself. From then on, there was no news of him. Some people said that he was silently cultivating, some said that he was killed by the Buddha cultivators of the Western paradise. There were also some who said that he was tempering himself in the cycle of reincarnation. Now, it seems that the second guess was correct. He allowed himself to enter the cycle of reincarnation, and now, he actually changed his path to cultivating the cycle of emotions, believing that being emotionless was the only way to prove one's Tao. Yu Changkong's eyes flashed. Regardless of his previous life as a god king or his current life, he seemed to have missed out on the era Hua Taishu lived in. Hence, he didn't know of Hua Taishu's legend. He didn't expect that Hua Taishu was actually such a legendary character. In the past, he cultivated the Tao of emotionless samsara. But now, he changed his path to the Tao of emotions. In the past, I already felt that the Tao of the Western paradise was wrong, a crooked Tao. Hence, I chose to leave. Now, the Western paradise's actions have proven the decision I made in the past. The me in the past didn't have the qualifications to be a Buddha Lord. I wasn't worthy to be a Buddha. In this life, I will no longer cultivate the Buddhist path, and the Western paradise is also not worthy to represent the Buddhist path. Hua Taishu spoke. "Vile spawn, you betrayed the Buddhist path and actually dared to spread lies to deceive the masses, deceiving your master and destroying your ancestors. Today, you shall be executed." Another Buddha cultivator roared in rage. However, Hua Taishu didn't seem to care. His Tao continued to descend onto the people of the Western world. Chapter 2016. Many people from the Buddha World Army from the Western world even shed tears. They woke up from the cycle of reincarnation and knew that they had fallen for the Buddha Lord's Tao. They had no way to extricate themselves. They actually abandoned everything just to follow the Western paradise. This was simply too ridiculous. For the sake of pursuing the great Tao? Whose Tao were they seeking? Today, even if the Western paradise took over the heaven vault, the one they sought would only be the Buddha Lord. What use was there to them? In the boundless starry space, everyone woke up. The power of the giant Buddha was still weakening unceasingly. This caused Qin Yuanfeng and the Grim Reaper's attacks to grow stronger and stronger. They were already able to restrict the giant Buddha, and soon, the giant Buddha's battle formation was about to crumble apart. But at this moment, the eyes of the Western Paradise's Buddha cultivators all flashed with cold smiles. After that, one of them coldly spoke, "Junior brother, do you guys think that this will be of any use?" Hua Taishu's heart trembled. His handsome eyes stared at the giant Buddha as a bad premonition appeared in his heart. He was once a Buddha lord of the Western Paradise and was very familiar with many Tao arts of the Buddhist path. If this still couldn't weaken the strength of the other party, unless the other party had already cultivated a heaven-defying Tao art. If that was the case, his reincarnation heavenly Tao illusionary arts would be useless as well. Boundless astral light cascaded down from the sky. Countless Buddhic constellations shone on the giant Buddha. After that, the light from the giant Buddha shone onto the Buddha world's army. The resplendent Buddhic light enveloped this boundless space. Everyone seemed to be illuminated by the beams of light. They seemed to have formed a strange connection with the giant Buddha. Brahmic chants rang out in the air, like the words of fate. The fates of everyone no longer belonged to them, they weren't under their control. Above their heads, Buddhic light lit up, resembling Buddha lamps. Countless Buddha lamps lit up, illuminating the entire starry space, igniting the fates of countless people. The Buddhic light shot towards Hua Taishu. Boundless Buddhic light enveloped Hua Taishu, directly entering his body. Hua Taishu's countenance drastically changed. He closed his eyes as his body actually started to tremble. Faintly, there seemed to be an illusory figure wanting to walk out from his body. This illusory figure was none other than his own shadow. It was like his fate. Once the illusory figure of fate walked out, his fate would be under the control of others, allowing them to do whatever they wanted. The Tao of destiny enlightens all living beings. Who wouldn't be devoted to Buddhism? A Buddha Lord spoke, his eyes gleaming with sharpness. So what if Hua Taishu, this traitor of the Buddhist path, was powerful? This was the era of Hua Taishu. At that time, the God King of the Universe region had never appeared before. Although the Buddha Lords of the Western Paradise knew of his existence, they also knew that he was injured and wouldn't be able to control the situation of the Western Paradise. But things were different now. In this era, the God King of the Universe region had already returned. He was the master of the Western world. With him around, how could Hua Taishu have the chance to rise up? Countless shadows appeared on Hua Taishu's body. It was as though each shadow was him. He rapidly retreated and slashed out with the light of samsara, completely severing the connection between him and the Buddhic light. I failed. Qin Wentian's expression stiffened. He was only a step away from success, but he still failed in the end. From that giant Buddha, he could sense the power of destiny. If he could truly control the fate of all living beings, who in this world would be able to stop him? All of a sudden, that giant Buddha changed its target and launched an attack at Hua Taishu, like it wanted to kill this traitor of the Buddhist path. Hua Taishu's silhouette flickered unceasingly as the terrifying Buddha path palm grabbed towards him. Just when Hua Taishu wanted to evade, all of a sudden, the sky seemed to be locked in place. His body couldn't move at all. That giant palm imprint smashed down, containing boundless Buddha path energy within it, wanting to bind the heavens. Hua Taishu's eyes of reincarnation radiated a terrifying light of reincarnation. That circle of light grew larger and larger until it completely engulfed his body. He entered the cycle of reincarnation, breaking free from the restraints of the Buddha energy. When the palm imprint slammed down, his silhouette had already appeared in another dimension. However, his opponent didn't give up. That giant Buddha wouldn't stop until he killed Hua Taishu. This caused Qin Yuanfeng, the Grim Reaper, and Qin Wentian to be completely ignored. The three of them stared at the giant Buddha and directly launched their attacks. That was truly an apocalyptic attack. The giant Buddha was protected by millions of palm imprints, but it had no way to block all of the attacks. Qin Yuanfeng's 6 paths of force pierced through the head of the Buddha. The 6 paths of light shattered that gigantic head. From this, one could very well imagine how terrifying the explosive power was. However, they didn't even have time to feel happy. The giant Buddha didn't show any signs of stopping. It continued to attack Hua Taishu while defending against the encirclement of the other hegemonic powers. He still can't be killed? Many people were speechless. They stared at the headless giant Buddha. Could it be that this wasn't the true body of the myriad devil sovereign? What sort of a monster was this exactly? Hua Taishu's heart trembled when he saw that the Buddhapatha's attacks were still focused on him. He knew that although he didn't manage to completely destroy the energy of his opponent earlier, in truth, his attacks had already played a role. If not, his opponent wouldn't be in such a hurry to kill him. Also, when he saw that the head had no reaction at all, he thought back to the terrifying news from the Western Paradise. His heart trembled as he roared, "Don't attack his gigantic golden body anymore. That isn't the Buddha sovereign, it isn't anyone else either. This is the Buddhist sect's belief in the heavenly Tao, gathering the faith of everyone in the world, the fate of all living beings, the Tao of countless people. This is a Buddha formed from the faith of faith and is controlled by someone. The person controlling this Buddha is the true Buddha sovereign. In the past, even if the God King destroyed this giant Buddha, it would be useless. In that case, I might not have seen the true myriad Buddha sovereign before." Qin Wendian felt some shock in his heart. That incomparably gigantic ancient Buddha was born from the power of faith. As for the God King of the universe region, they might have never even met him before. It was too difficult to deal with. Their opponents this time around were unprecedentedly terrifying. At this moment, a beam of light shot over from outside the heaven vault. This beam of light was incomparably resplendent, soaring upwards and arriving before the ancient Buddha. This figure was actually a woman with incomparable beauty, exuding boundless magnificence. She stared in the direction of Qin Wenyan and the Grim Reaper. After that, she closed her beautiful eyes and in an instant, boundless astral light shone on her. After that, another figure appeared behind her. This figure was so beautiful that it caused the hearts of everyone to palpitate. She was like a divine lord standing there. When he saw this figure, the gaze of the Grim Reaper froze. His body actually trembled. He didn't expect that he would still be able to see her return in his lifetime. In addition, he would be able to fight side by side with her. Chapter 2017. Qin Wenyan also glanced at that figure as he spoke in a light voice, "Yuang." So it turned out that the person who appeared was none other than Princess Kitamura. However, the goddess behind her wasn't Yu Huang. It was another supreme beauty, exuding boundless magnificence. She was none other than the imperishable Heaven Lord. The imperishable Heaven Lord seemed to have a life of her own. Her eyes stared at the gigantic ancient Buddha before her as coldness flickered in her eyes. It was like they were enemies who hadn't met each other for many years. Once, the mastermind behind the destruction of ancient Azure Mystic was none other than the God King of the universe region. The Western Paradise was the mastermind behind the destruction of ancient Azure Mystic. As the Heaven Lord of ancient Azure Mystic, she failed to protect her own home, causing it to be destroyed. Many heavenly deities turned into skeletons, let alone ordinary cultivators. All of them became the dust of history. The destruction of an entire world. How cruel was that? Even after countless years, she would still remember this grudge. Boundless soul energy enveloped the world. In the boundless halos around the imperishable Heaven Lord, numerous illusory soul shadows appeared. There were so many of them that they were like an army of death spirits. They were all experts who were once buried in ancient Azure Mystic. Now, they were awakened and returned with reluctance in their hearts. "You can actually still return?" A voice rang out from the mouth of the gigantic Buddha. It was like he was acquainted with the imperishable Heaven Lord. Although he was a Buddha formed from the Tao of faith, he was indeed controlled by the God King of the universe region. Hence, the voice he spoke was naturally the voice of the God King of the Western Paradise. He borrowed the Tao of faith to attack the heaven vault, purifying the masses. Such power could shake the heavens and earth and make ghosts and gods weep. Even when he was at his peak back then, he wasn't so powerful. At this moment, the god king of the Western paradise who had undergone a transformation and returned after countless years of silence, would only be stronger. He comprehended all the Buddhist Taoists and was omnipotent. In this supreme ancient immortal realms, who else could obstruct his path? Who could obstruct his ambitions? After he occupied the heaven vault, he would use it as his base to control the supreme ancient immortal realms, purifying the masses. The people of the 33 immortal realms would all believe in him. At that time, his body of faith would be able to pierce through the 9 heavenly layers and truly transcend. At that time, the various heavenly layers wouldn't be able to bind him. He would become the king of the supreme ancient immortal realms. If you can come back, why can't I? The imperishable Heaven Lord's voice rang out. It was like she had truly returned. In the past, she used heaven-defying methods to transform her soul into the heavens, burying Azure Mystic, sealing countless souls and burying their obsessions. It was all for the sake of a day when she would be awakened and return to avenge this world-destroying hatred. Princess Kitamura was the one who awakened her. She was chosen by the god of death. Not only did she awaken her, but she also awakened the sealed Qin Xian. Behind the imperishable Heaven Lord and Princess Kitamura was the Death Spirit army of ancient Azure Mystic. They came back to fight again. They only had a single purpose: to destroy the Western paradise. A bunch of souls trying to harm all living beings in the world. I'll use the Supreme Buddhist Dharma to send you all to the afterlife. That figure coldly spoke. After that, countless Buddhas manifested in the world. These Buddhas chanted in Sanskrit, like the sound of expiation. In an instant, boundless Buddhic light descended, enveloping the space where Princess Kitamura and the imperishable Heaven Lord were at. Within the Death Spirit army, countless swastikas appeared. These swastikas wanted to imprint themselves on the bodies of the Death Spirit army, purifying them and destroying them. This Buddha of faith is proficient in the myriad of Taoists. There's nothing he can't do. Many people sighed in their hearts. The God King of the universe region was too powerful. There was nothing he wasn't proficient in. He could easily unleash them. However, at this moment, the figures of the Death Spirit army grew more and more illusory, as though they didn't exist at all. A formless energy flowed towards Princess Kitamura. It was like all the energy was gathered on her body. Those shadows flickered in and out of existence around her. It was like they originally had a body of nothingness. Even their souls could vanish at any moment. This caused the swastikas that were used to purify the souls to lose their might. It was like they struck empty air. The powerful Buddhist Dharma had no way to unleash its power. Princess Kitamura's eyes were tightly closed as her long hair fluttered in the wind. At this moment, she was so beautiful, incomparably holy and pure, like a goddess from the 9 heavens. Even when compared to the imperishable Heaven Lord behind her, her aura wasn't inferior in any way. It was just that she lacked the majesty of the imperishable Heaven Lord, but in terms of beauty, she wasn't inferior at all. The imperishable Heaven Lord stared ahead. Her eyes were as cold as ever. Wanting to purify them? The Soul Spirit army was originally awakened by Princess Kitamura. Even if the imperishable Heaven Lord wanted to attack them, it would be extremely difficult. That giant Buddha also seemed to have realized that Princess Kitamura was the core. If he killed her, everything would naturally collapse. As the imperishable Heaven Lord, you actually passed everything to a descendant. Is this your successor? That giant Buddha spoke. The imperishable Heaven Lord glanced at him. A selfish person like you basically wouldn't understand that everyone in the world is merely a tool for you to dominate. For your own selfish desires, you can even annihilate all lives in the world. Back then, ancient Azure Mystic was like this. Today, you even controlled the people of the Western world to be used by you. In this world, I'm afraid there wouldn't be another devil like you. What's even more terrifying is that you are actually wearing the guise of a Buddha. Yu Huang, let him feel your strength. The imperishable Heaven Lord spoke. Princess Kitamura's eyes were still closed. At this instant, everyone in the starry space, including heavenly deities, felt a strange feeling. It was like a mysterious energy had appeared in their souls. This formless energy could already directly attack their souls. She is even more terrifying now. The expressions of some of the heavenly deities beside Yu Changkong drastically changed. Back then during the war in the Heaven Vault, some of them had already experienced Princess Kitamura's soul-freezing ability. She could ignore all defenses and attack the souls of others. Such an attack was simply too terrifying, there was no way to block it. Right now, Princess Kitamura was even stronger. If she directly used a soul attack on them, how terrifying would the consequences be? Basically, no one would be able to protect them. Most probably, only death awaited them. For the ultimate confrontation of the supreme ancient immortal realms this time around, no one could predict who would be the final winner. Soul freezing. Princess Kitamura's long hair fluttered in the wind, she was incomparably beautiful. A cold voice rang out from her red lips. In an instant, the bodies of countless experts behind the giant Buddha stiffened as the Buddhic light radiating from them dimmed. Their souls seemed to have stopped moving, frozen solid. Layers of frost covered their bodies, turning them into icemen, wanting to freeze them in this starry space. Do you think this will be useful? That giant Buddha coldly spoke. His voice rang out through the starry space, countless people could hear it. The light of the Buddhist Tao enveloped the people of the Western world. He was one with them, fate had connected them together. Since they were one entity, the Tao was the same as well. Time, reverse the flow. As the sound of his voice faded, Buddhic light flared. The Buddha statue of faith transformed into a Buddha of time, causing time and space to flow in reverse. The soul-freezing energy retreated from the bodies of everyone. This scene was extremely wondrous. The frost on the bodies of the countless figures slowly faded away. He is also proficient in the Tao of time. Is there really anyone who can deal with him? Many people were speechless. The Buddha sovereign was too powerful. Even before he appeared, he was already so powerful to such an extent. The Grim Reaper frowned. If this was the case, this giant Buddha was truly an invincible existence with no weaknesses. Even if Princess Kitamura became incomparably powerful, once she attacked him, even if he reversed time, it would still be useless. Unless they could find that God King of the Universe region and kill him so that he wouldn't even be able to unleash his Tao. But if they couldn't break the power of the Buddha sovereign, it would be extremely difficult to force him out. There seemed to be no solution. Just the Western world alone was already so troublesome for them. Yu Changkong and Che Ho were still watching from the side. Che Ho's strength has already been proven, but Yu Changkong had the power of 2 God Kings and might be even stronger. His strength was still a mystery until now unless he acted. I can freeze time, but if we want to kill him, I'm afraid that just freezing time isn't enough. When he loses the faith energy of everyone, let's join forces and destroy that giant Buddha. We should be able to break his Tao. At this moment, Qin Wenyan spoke, his voice ringing out in the ears of everyone. The Grim Reaper's eyes flashed. That's right, Qin Wenyan was also proficient in the Tao of time. Right now, his cultivation base should have already reached an extremely high level. Qin Wenyan's method was feasible. The Grim Reaper and I will destroy the giant Buddha. Qin Yuanfeng spoke. Everyone nodded as they stared ahead. After that, all the peak characters unleashed their Tao arts at the same time. For a period of time, the strength of the pressure was simply heaven-shaking. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.